All right, good evening, everybody. The June 29th, 2020 annual town meeting for the town of Stoughton is now called to order. This town meeting is being held via the remote platform Zoom webinar due to public health concerns arising from the COVID-19 pandemic. This meeting is also being broadcast live through Stoughton Media Access Corporation. It is being recorded for future broadcasting. I'd like to take this moment now to please rise and stand if you're able to join me in pledge allegiance to our flag. Flag's behind me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd just like to take a few words extra here. Over this year, the town has lost several beloved members of our community who have served our town in numerous ways. Stoughton is a better place because of their service. Please join me now for a moment of silence for those we have lost. Rest in peace. Good evening to everyone here. Let me introduce our panelists to the audience and to our town meeting members. Christine Howell, Chair of the Select Board. Steve Cavey, Vice Chair, Select Board. Joe McCrisky, if he's on, I don't see him. He's a member of the Select Board. Deborah Roberts, newly elected member of the Select Board. Bob O'Regan, member of the Select Board. Our Town Manager, Dr. Robin Grimm. Stephanie Carrara, Interim Town Clerk. Dr. John Marcus, Superintendent of the Stoughton Schools. Sandra Gropey, Chairwoman of the School Committee. Jean Fleming, Deputy Moderator. Lauren Goldberg, Town Council, KP Law. Ed Trumfield, Chairman of the Finance Committee. Bob Desmond, Vice Chair, Finance Committee. William Rowe, Town Accountant. And just making sure I get everybody. And I'm Bob Mullen, your Town Moderator. So at this time, we normally do a precinct count, but since we're not in precincts, instead we're going to do attendance by software, polling software. So now I ask the technical team to, because we're preparing for a vote, move the panelists who are town meeting reps into the town meeting room so they can be able to vote. And once they all get back there, we'll put up the poll, we can vote, we'll vote for attendance.
Bobby, can you hear me?
Joe, I understand you're under Christian Brandt?
Yes.
Okay, we just didn't recognize that name. Hang on 1 minute, everybody. Joe, you're not using your own device?
I am. I
Okay.
just
Oh,
now.
there you go.
There we are. Okay.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
I'm precinct 2.
Right.
I got this white window in front of me. I can't change the name.
That's okay. Joe, we'll take care of you. Technical
Thank
team
you,
will
sir.
help out.
How are you, Dr. Grimm?
Okay, Joseph. Hey,
Nice to see you. I kind of hear you, but it's nice to see you.
we're just waiting to move.
There we
Joe.
are. Good to
Joseph
see you
Stewart.
too.
My pleasure.
We're just waiting to move Joe Sewers. Joe, you're gonna go into the town meeting rep room in just a moment.
Okay, so I'm going to precinct 2?
No, we're not in the precincts.
Okay,
Just going into the town meeting rep large room.
got it.
Okay, at this time, we're gonna launch the poll. So town meeting reps, there should be a poll in front of your screen. Please vote. Are you present? You have 20 seconds. Like, one second. Time the interim town clerk provide the count for the attendance. Yes. Right. Well, the count is appearing on our screens. I'm just waiting for the clerk. Okay. Well, there's 158 town meeting reps present. And actually, there's 4 more. 162. A few people put it in the not applicable. Thank you very much. Now you're gonna make me do math all night. Thank you. 162, correct? Okay, thank you. What's that? No, we're. Okay, before we move everybody back into the rooms here, I should announce that since there's 162 people present, we have a quorum tonight. Since 85 is considered a quorum, we have 168 representative seats filled. So we do have a quorum to continue business tonight. Well, we're still in the
Mr.
town meeting.
Moderator?
Excuse me?
Excuse me. We have a total of 158 that responded to the poll and 4 NAs.
Right,
Non-applicable.
before people,
Yep. I just want to let you know that was what the count was, 158, not 168.
okay. You gotta mention it to her. All right, thank you, Stephanie. Okay, we're gonna stay in the rooms here. We're gonna do our first order of business. We have to vote on the use of a remote town meeting platform. I'm gonna ask the technical people to poll. All right, there's a poll present on your screen, and the motion's on virtual meeting platform. This is the first vote we have to take to move any further in the business tonight. Please vote. You have 20 seconds. Results of the poll.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, everybody sees the results of the poll. 152 says yes, 3 say no, 3 abstain. Thank you all for voting. Motion has passed. Next, I will invite procedural motions. Was there a hand raised? Okay. Okay, at this point in time, I'd like to also make, if I can, hold everything for 1 minute. I'd like to make a couple announcements. We do have Congressman Stephen Lynch joining us in the panel just to say hi, to good evening to everybody. Can we,
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I appreciate your kindness. We're actually in a series of 7 roll call votes here, so I'm going to have to jump right out. They're going to call another vote, but I did want to thank you for including me. I wanted to thank everyone for their involvement in town meeting. Very, very important process, and really the heart and soul of our democracy. So I appreciate, especially during these difficult times, that people are still engaged and that you have taken all these precautions to make sure that people could participate in town government safely and effectively. And hopefully the next town meeting, perhaps in the fall, I'll be able to visit with you, and we'll conduct one in real time without with all of this behind us. So thank you very much for your kindness. I really appreciate your courtesy. And as you know, it's an enormous honor for me to represent the town of Stoughton in the United States Congress. So thank you.
You're welcome, Congressman. Have a good evening. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, sir.
Thank you. You too. Thanks so much.
All right, I'd also like to recognize Katie Katie Pinokian, I apologize, Katie. She is the vice chairperson of the school committee. She's also going to be a panelist this evening. Okay, at this time, I'm gonna invite procedural motions. Stand by, we're just waiting a moment here. Joe. Well, let him make the motion first. Mark Zamani, you recognize to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move to dispense with the reading of the warrant and the return thereof.
Is there a second? Seconded by Gene Fleming. Just a moment, we have Joe. Joe Soers, did you have a question? You're up next. Can we?
Can you hear me?
Yes, Joe. Please state your name and precinct number.
My name is Joe Soers and I can't vote. It won't allow me to vote.
All right, we will talk to the tech team. I'll give you the number. We'll take your vote from the tech team. Get a pencil, Joseph?
Yes, go ahead.
781-232-9248.
Thank you, boy.
You're welcome. George Dolinsky, can we unmute George Dolinsky?
Mr. Moderator,
George Dolinsky,
I move that no new motions for reconsideration of any budget amount shall be in order until all departments have been initially voted.
do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Gene Fleming. Thank you, George.
You're welcome, sir.
I see Carolyn Campbell. Please unmute her.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Good evening. Could you just state your name and precinct number?
Carolyn Campbell, Precinct 5. I
Yes.
have a question. It's a point of order. I believe the motion that we had, the vote we had on to go virtual, wasn't somebody supposed to make the motion? Because I asked that in the Q&A pod, and then someone from the tech team told me that the poll was the motion, which I do not believe is correct. And when I asked that question, my question was dismissed by the host.
My apologies, Carolyn. We're just going through this. It's required by law. The first vote is required by law. It did not require a motion. Okay? Thank you very much.
Um,
That's it right now, Carol. Thank you.
yeah, I still,
Pat Colburn, can you unmute Pat Colburn? Pat, could you state your name and precinct number, please?
Pat Colbert, Precinct 4. Aren't we supposed to vote on these procedural motions?
Yes, I'm just waiting. There's a couple others. Yes, we're going to vote. The poll's going to be up in 1 minute.
Oh, so you're voting for them all as a whole?
Yes, it's allowable.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Pat. Can we unmute Jim Garrett? Jim, could you state your name and precinct number when you get on? Jim, go ahead.
6. How are motions put forward?
Well, the procedural motions are just from the
No, I'm
floor.
talking about floor motions, article motions.
Yeah, we have to I will recognize you in the Q&A.
How about motions seconded? How is that done?
Jim, we will discuss that, lay that out as soon as we get through these procedural motions.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Not yet. Can you unmute John Anzavino? John, you'll be unmuted. Please state your name and precinct number.
Yes, this is John Anzavino, Precinct
Yes.
4.
Hi, John.
Just a question, Bob, because you got all these procedural motions and they haven't come out ahead of time. Is there any way you can just share it on the screen so we can see, so that when we vote, we know what we had?
Yes, I'll explain that. Yes, let me explain to everybody right now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, John. We're going to vote on these motions. We'll put these up on the screen. Just give me a moment to get them all in there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Gene, can you make those two? Gene, yes. Gene Fleming, go ahead. I recognize you. Just 1 second.
That amendments were substitute motions for an article other than the operating budget be considered only.
Hang on a second. All right, need a second on that?
Bob, we were not able to hear Jean. She was muted.
Okay. We'll clarify that. No. We just have little technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. Just bear with me for a moment.
Can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
I move the amendments or substitute motions for an article other than the operating budget be considered only in writing, and further, that any proposed substitute motions or complex amendments be delivered in writing to the moderator no later than noon on the day of the session at which the motion is made.
Is there a second? There's a second.
That's okay.
Last one, Gene.
I move that no reconsideration take place until the last article has been completed at town meeting.
Second.
There's seconded. All right, we're gonna have a poll up, please. All right, we're gonna put the poll up and give you all a minute to read through it. My apologies, little technical problems there.
Mr. Moderator, I'm unable to vote because I'm still in the panel.
All right, thank you. We'll take care of that. I'm gonna actually read that because we'll cut off on the motion. Town council put that together for us so it'll fit on the screen. So here's the motion that's on the screen. I move that we dispense with the reading of the warrant, amendments or substitute motions other than on the operating budget be in writing. And any proposed substitute motions or complex amendments be sent to moderator no later than 12 o'clock on date of session. No 12 p.m. on date of session. No reconsideration on budget until all departments voted. No reconsideration on other articles until last article has been completed. I'm just paraphrasing a few things there. It says the same thing. So now we're going to vote on those procedure motions. Okay, now we have 20 seconds to complete that poll. Please vote.
Hi, folks. If you sent us a message that you did not receive your poll, we are writing down your names and we will be in touch with you shortly. Thank you.
everybody that if your hand is raised because you couldn't vote for some reason, we will take your vote. The technical team will reach out and take your vote. The motion has passed. And we will get your vote in. Mahan, your hand's raised. We're trying to unmute you. I'm sorry, I must have been, this mouse muted me again. Mahan's first in line with his hand raised. He will be unmuted. Will Mahan, when you get unmuted, please state your name and precinct number. For technical questions, I just want to say, for technical questions, please go to the help desk. The phone number is 781-232-9248. That's 781-232-9248.
William, you're now permitted to talk.
He still shows muted, technical team.
William, you should be able to unmute yourself if you click on your microphone.
All right, we're going to go on. Oh, there he goes. William Mahan?
Yes.
Name and precinct, please.
William Mahan, Precinct 6.
Good evening.
Hello.
Did you have a comment, sir?
Well, I couldn't vote. I never really got a poll.
What device are you using, sir?
I'm using a Dell computer.
Please call the help desk and we'll take your vote. I'll give you, you got a pencil, sir?
We have the number.
Okay, thank you. Please call them. Next in line is Colburn. Please, once we get you unmuted, please give your name and number.
Pat Colburn, Precinct 4. I'd like
Yes.
to know how many of us didn't receive that poll pop-up. I was voting earlier, then I didn't get it popped up, and we can't declare a vote passed if not everybody had an opportunity to vote. So I'd like to know how many other people beside myself and the gentleman that just spoke weren't able to vote.
Call the help desk, please, 781-232-9248.
Bob, no, we
I
have to
the
be able to
town
vote.
council right here next to me, Pat. Thank you.
Hi, folks. This is Sasha from the tech team. I just want to make a quick announcement about polls, especially if you've been receiving polls and you didn't see your last one. Sometimes they disappear behind your Zoom screen, or you may have minimized them. So the next time a poll comes up, make sure that you're checking your bottom toolbar, as well as you can click on your Zoom screen and move it to see if the poll is actually hidden behind the screen. But it should pop up as a new pop-up. If you've minimized it, it might not. So that might be a potential solution for folks who are having trouble seeing a poll if they saw the initial polls. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Mark Zamanian. Mute Mark Zamanian.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I have concern. There's been a number of people, including myself, who voted in the past, and I was not able to vote on this. I wasn't even sure if we were voting on all 4 procedural motions at once or just one, as the first poll popped up and said. This is only going to work if it's fair and balanced, Mr. Moderator, and calling the tech line isn't really helpful in getting us through this. unless we had to wait until all those calls come into the tech
Mr.
support
Zimini,
line,
just-
and those are,
Thank you, Mr. Zemani.
no, hang on a second.
No, hang on. Let me just, did you see the poll in front of you, sir?
I saw a poll that disappeared. I never got to vote on it. But it was only, I was reading and it was only the first part of the procedural motions.
Right. It was shortened. It was abbreviated by town council to make it easier for everybody on the poll.
I understand that. I can appreciate that, but could we be perhaps clear on what we're voting on when we vote? I just want this to be a fair and balanced process, Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Zemani, I read it out also at the same time.
Yes, you did, but the poll was unclear, and by the time I went to vote on it, it was gone. So maybe we could extend the time period.
We will extend the
something?
time period.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
thank
Appreciate it.
you.
Next up, George Dolinsky has his hand raised. Can we unmute George Dolinsky?
Hi, Bob. George Dolinsky, Precinct 2. I've been trying to talk to the people at the help desk also. I wasn't able to vote on the last question either. But one of the things that's disconcerting is a lot of times we see your lips moving and you're on mute. And we don't know if you're talking to us out here.
Okay, I'll make sure don't
Internally.
mute myself. Point well taken, George. We're gonna do the poll again. I just checked with the council. We're gonna do it again to satisfy everybody. So I'm gonna read it to you. Procedural motion poll. Okay. Carolyn Campbell, was that? Well, let me just read this first. So we'll give everybody that raised their hand. Okay. Post the poll now. And I'm gonna read it to you. And we're gonna hold it out there to make sure everybody's clear on it. Here's the poll. It's in front of you. I'm gonna read it. Procedural motions are combined for the sake of this poll. We know it's cut off a little bit.
Everybody, please remember to vote again.
Just 1 minute, please. All right, here I go. I'm reading the poll. I move that we dispense with the reading of the warrants, amendments or substitute motions other than on the operating budget be in writing. And any proposed substitute motions or complex amendments be sent to the moderator no later than 12 p.m. on the date of the session. No reconsideration on budget until all departments voted. No reconsideration on other articles until the last article has been completed during the town meeting. That's the poll. All right. So let's begin answering the poll. We'll give you 40 seconds this time, just to make sure everybody can see it.
Hi, folks. If you're not seeing the poll, some suggestions from other participants is to click on the polls icon at the bottom of your screen. You also might have your main screen enabled. So if you go to your settings, you should be able to also choose an option where you can see your poll. Thank you.
I'm gonna give everybody another 10 seconds so we get through this one. Not yet. We're gonna keep the poll out there for another 10 seconds. Okay, now we're gonna end the poll. And we'll give you the count, the results of the poll. The numbers are yes, 140, no, 117, and one abstention. I'm sorry, I'll read it again. One yes, 140, no, 17, abstentions, 1. The motion passed. Thank you all for voting. All right, let's see if we have any more hands raised. We have a few more. Carolyn Campbell? Please unmute Carolyn Campbell.
Hi, Mr. Moderator.
Yes, good evening. Can you have
Carolyn
state your
Campbell,
precinct number?
Precinct 5.
Yes, Carolyn.
I have basically a question to make, or at least more of a point. I understand that this is an extremely difficult thing in order to try to run a town meeting virtually.
Yes.
However, I do not think that it is appropriate for people to be told that if they're having trouble voting, that to call the tech center and they will take the vote. I think if that's happening on motions that are involving, substances, motions of substance, it raises the legitimacy of this forum. Raises questions about the legitimacy of this
Well, we're
forum.
doing our best to make our way through this, and that's why we voted. Thank you very much.
Right. I appreciate that, Mr. Moderator, but I think, going forward in the future, having to help the tech people, telling people to call that tech center is to record their vote is not the appropriate way to run a meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carolyn. Thank you. Next up, Becca Moxon. When you're unmuted, please state your name and precinct number.
Hi. Hi,
Name and
Becca Markson, Precinct 7.
Yes, hi, Becca.
Hi, I just have 2 quick questions. If we're calling tech support for help, are we utilizing the Q&A for procedural questions? And if so, who is managing the questions in the Q&A?
We have people here managing the Q&A.
Not tech question, procedural questions. Is someone monitoring the chat for
Yes.
those?
Yes, we do. The answer is yes, but we do have someone monitoring it.
Okay, and then the other quick question was, the poll seems to be going up before you finish speaking. So when you tell people to vote, it's already off the screen. So I just think there's a timing issue.
People, as soon as it shows up, people start voting right away, so it does launch up. It's just the software. But if people would just wait until I tell them to vote, that would kind of stop some of those issues happening. So next time we do a poll, let's just everybody wait until I say, please start voting.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Becca. Next up is Paul Demuse. Please unmute Paul Demuse.
Hi, Mr. Moderator. Paul Demuse, Precinct 3.
Hi, Paul.
I have an issue with the question and answer function. I had a comment about the chat that it should auto scroll, and then it was dismissed by host. And so now I can't see any new chats since about 7:30. Like I'm blocked because my comment was dismissed by host.
Hi, folks. This is Sasha from the tech team jumping in here. I just want to clarify that a dismissal of a question just means that it's been moved out of the open questions, which means it's either been answered by Bob or it has already been answered via the chat. You should be able to still send messages if your question has been dismissed. I'm seeing repeat questions from folks whose messages were dismissed, so you should still be able to send a message. Sometimes the chat is a little bit delayed in the questions popping up, but you should be able to see them. I know that they're not coming up in order, which is very frustrating. Unfortunately, that is a Zoom setting that we cannot fix. If you have any further questions, please feel free to continue messaging the chat. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, to Sasha, I have not been able to get another new chat since 7:22. There's been 45 more questions, and I cannot see any of them. I'm scrolled to the bottom. It doesn't give me the option to, what was it saying before, not collapse, but go to the next. I'm stuck at 7:22.
Paul, why don't you try closing the chat?
I close it, and then it shows the question and answer count will keep coming up, next to where you raise your hand. And then when I click on it, I go back. I have to scroll all the way to the end of the chat again, and I'm still at 7 p.m., 7:22 p.m. That was the last one. I'm not receiving any more new ones.
Oh, it should be 3 different panels: open questions, answered questions, and dismissed questions. Are you in the answered or open section of it?
I'm clicking on all questions, which shows a total of 88. The last one I can see is 7:22 p.m., which was like number 43.
Well, they might not be in order. Some other folks are chiming in here on the chat saying that it might not really be in order.
Well, no new ones have appeared. I can see the same ones. Michael Hammond, 7:22. Thank you. Tech team, Sasha. Thank you, Thomas. We will make note that you are having trouble with your voting. And that's it.
If you
Paul,
however,
why don't we ask them to log off and log back in?
Yeah, I just want to clarify that you're not going to see the newest message at the bottom. For some reason, Zoom sprinkles the messages in throughout. So you're going to need to scroll through the messages to see the new chats. Unfortunately, it's the same for us on our end.
Wow.
There's not much way to do that. So they are appearing. It's just not going to appear at the bottom of your chat.
Yeah, I see it now. They're random. They're all over the place.
Yep.
Okay, this is not a good chat feature. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. All right, can we move on now? We just need to continue with the order of business at hand. Right. All right, now we're gonna move on. I'll get back to the people who have their hands raised. I will take a motion to move that the town vote to take Articles 13, 15, 16, 17, 18, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 44, 46, 47, 48, 50, and 53 out of order, and to dismiss these articles. They've been sent out on that spreadsheet. They're all yellow. And if I could get a motion on that.
So made.
Okay, I need a second.
Second.
And seconded. We're gonna do a poll on that. We'll take a vote once it gets set up. Okay, before you start clicking on it, wait till I say go. Let's sit up there for a minute and I'll read it to you. And okay, then we'll have at least 30 seconds to vote. So hang on a minute, everybody. Just don't jump on that. So the motion up there is move to dismiss Articles 13, 15, 16, 17, 18, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 45, 46, 47, 48, and 53. I'm sorry, let me say that again. 13, 15, 16, 17, 18, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 44, 46, 47, 48, and 53. All right. Now you may start voting. Okay. You have about, okay, it's been over 40 seconds. We'll give you about another 10 seconds. Okay, we can close the poll now. We'll get the results. Motion passes, 148 yes, 4 no, 6 abstentions. Motion passes, 148 yes, 4 no, 6 abstentions. Thank you. All right, we're moving on. I will take a motion to move that the town vote to take Article 20 out of order and proceed.
So moved.
Motion's made by Gene Fleming. Need a second? It's been seconded by Stephanie Carrara. Cynthia Walsh, I'm sorry, I just heard a voice over there. She's in another room. Okay, can we put that poll up, please? And is Mr. Ed Trunfield on? Let me close that poll yet. We have a discussion. Well, we're gonna take a motion to move that. Sorry. Put that back up, please. Yeah, we're gonna relaunch that poll. My mistake. I just was looking for Mr. Ed Trumfield to be ready. Everybody re-vote, please. Everybody re-vote. Right. Okay, just take a moment before you jump on that poll. As we said, give it about 5-10 seconds. I'll tell you when to start. So I'll just read it out. This is to move to take Article 20 as the next order of business, the general fund operating budget. Take it out of order and proceed. All right, please vote. And we'll take time. We'll give you 2 more seconds for the poll. Okay, we have 55 seconds, plenty of time. It's closing now. Okay, we're sharing the results. Motion passes. 151 yes, 5 no, 2 abstentions. Motion pass, 151 yes, 5 no, 2 abstentions. Mr. Ed, are you there? I can't see.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Ed, we hear you. Okay, let me read this article a little bit. This is the next article in this budget is the budget article 20 on page 14 of the warrant. Here is how I want to take the budget. I will read the article number and the title as usual, and then we'll hear the main motion, followed by a second. I will then ask for the recommendation of the budget.
All right, can you hear me?
I hear you. And then
All right, ready to read the motion?
Hang on one second, Ed. I just want to read a little introduction to it. So I read the article number, which we did, in the title, and then we'll hear the main motion followed by a second. I will then ask for the recommendation of the Finance Committee, and then I will invite Mr. Trumfield, Mr. Desmond, and Dr. Robin Grimm, the town manager, to make a presentation on the budget. Following their brief presentations, Town Accountant Bill Roll will read each section of the budget by page number, title, and total recommended allocation. And I'll go into that a little bit after they make their presentations. It'll be very similar to what we did last year's town meeting. The budget will be read one department at a time and the one total allocation at a time for that department. We'll get into that a little bit after the presentations are made. Mr. Ed Trumfield, go ahead, please.
Okay, the proposed motion for Article 20, that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $106,419,953 for the maintenance and support of the several departments of the town, and that such sum be expended only for the purposes as described, and further, that to meet this appropriation, $101,826,837 be raised from the tax levy, $3,200,000 to be transferred from free cash, $72,107 to be transferred from Title V receipts reserved for appropriation, $33,891 to be transferred from the Cedar Hill Fund retained earnings, $16,611 to be raised from the FY 2021 Cedar Hill Fund revenue, $243,465 to be transferred from the Public Health Fund retained earnings, $468,459 be transferred from the Sewer Fund retained earnings, $558,583 to be transferred from the Water Fund retained earnings, for a total of $106,419,953. The Finance Committee voted 15-1 to recommend to town meeting as set forth in the proposed motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. Up on the screen. We're going to do a poll. But give us a minute. the poll yet. We're just kind of, we're gonna have,
We need a motion.
excuse me, Robin, did you want to give your presentation? I'm sorry.
Yes, would be happy to.
Is there, we're just trying to get the presentation up. Is that the one you want up?
Yep, yep. Trish has one that says budget presentation for town meeting. I can share it from my screen if she'd rather.
Let them decide.
That's okay. Give us 1 minute. It's coming right up.
Perfect. I will go through this as quickly as I can for everybody.
Thank you, Robin.
Beautiful. Okay, thank you. I just want to start by a brief introduction, given that we're in a particularly challenging time. First, I want to say a huge thank you to Dr. Marcus. This was our first budget year working together. He was extremely helpful in this process. We worked together. We had a common goal of the best interest of the town of Stoughton, and that has been an absolute pleasure to deal with this year. We, oh, there we go. Where's my presentation? I lost my presentation. So with that said, you know, I know there's a lot of discussion about budgets and there's been a lot of talk about whether or not we should continue. That's perfect. We should continue with the budget that we had from January, whether we should change it, whether we should go with the modified that Mr. Trunfio discussed tonight, which was really closing any gaps that we had with the school. Had we gotten level funding? Do we go with the 1/12 budget? There have been a lot of options thrown on the table and a lot of discussion, very healthy discussion and very understandable questions. Let me say this. We have talked extensively about the 1/12 budget. It is absolutely an emergency backup plan only. It is extraordinarily complicated and it presents a whole host of problems for both the schools and for us and frankly for accounting procedures. We did look at it, we did consider it. One of the things I want you all to be aware of is, as I present this budget to you, understand that coming into July, August, and September, until we have clear numbers on state aid, I have absolutely no plans of expending everything that is in this budget. We are still under a restriction on spending being only essential spending. And we are also in a hiring freeze except for absolutely critical positions. So that being said, as we go into this, note that whatever was budgeted for July, August, and September will be on minimal use until we are certain about state numbers. I also want to assure everybody that this budget was put together extremely tight to begin with. We were very careful in pulling this together, and it represented a tight budget from the start. So we, you know, we took that position from the beginning. Let me just say we sat with our team very quickly. I will say we sat with our regular team, Fran Brunini, Deanna, Paul Jaffoon, Sue Herman, Mary Jane Martin, Bill Rowe, Trish Shropshire, Mark Tisdale, and myself comprised the budget team. And we worked together on this, had several meetings, and came up with the budget that you'll see tonight. This budget assumes level funding from the Commonwealth. This is what we planned when we went into this, and this is what we stayed with. Originally, we had a $472,000 gap with the schools. We were going to work to close that when we thought there might be some student achievement money coming. Now we're not confident about that student achievement money, so we have moved instead to closing that gap ahead of time. Next slide, please. The Board of Selectmen gave me a couple of directives, increased emphasis on code enforcement, level service, energy sustainability grant, and reasonable consideration of revenue and growth projections. Next slide. Our staff goals: increased efficiencies, projections for labor negotiations, tight spending, level services, fair consideration of the school department, and cost savings through consolidation. Next slide. Key budget drivers. This is a big one. Our joint costs are driven by our retirement system. We had a 7.06% increase from Norfolk County Retirement. We have no choice on this. Healthcare increase. We voted to increase the contribution of both the town and the employees based on a 2% increase on the total number. Last year, we did not increase it at all, but we had an agreement to consolidate to one healthcare plan, which saved the town money. We had employees under 3 different plans. We consolidated it under one, which is a better plan and also supports and promotes telemarketing, which can tend to save us money. But we did not increase it at all last year. We are increasing it 2% this year. That's probably lower than what the projected numbers are that we get from our healthcare consultants. But given that we do have a strong healthcare reserve, we felt that that was an appropriate way to go. We have a decrease. I apologize for this. The dogs are barking. We have a decrease in debt, and that is based on a fall off of some debt. And we have an increase in growth calculations as we are looking at 5 years rather than 10 years. Bear with me as I'm going into a quieter room. We budgeted for a 1.5% salary increase with a small reserve line for labor negotiations. And that reserve line is present in the Board of Selectmen's budget. Obviously, I could have sort of buried that in. Want to do that, and instead went with an option of putting the 1.5 publicly and then leaving that as a lump sum line item depending on what I negotiated with each union, because it's going to be different depending on the collective bargaining agreements. Next slide, please. Structural efficiency changes. We removed the assistant building commissioner position and replaced that with a code enforcement manager. The code enforcement manager can come to us at a lower salary, different level of qualifications, and we restructured it so that the whole department reports into Mark Tisdale under development services. We felt that that's a better option for control, and we're more comfortable this way that we won't have it become a de facto assistant building commissioner. It will stay focused on code enforcement. We created a part-time code enforcement position. Our assistant town sanitarian was nice enough to say, excuse me, that he has a little bit of extra time and would like to take on that role. We gave him a salary increase. It's certainly a lot less than if we had to hire a separate part-timer, but you will see a 50% increase in the operating budget in one of those line items because we have to effectively split his time so that we're very honest in the Board of Health budget, and that's not covering his time for code enforcement. It's a net savings for the town, but effectively we just have to budget it to show it. And again, the change in the report structure, and that all goes now to Mark Tisdale and Development Services. Next slide, please. Creation of a Human Services Division. So last year I created a Development Services Division. This year we've created a Human Services Division. When I came on board, I had the opportunity to hire an assistant town manager. And part of that was going to be paid out of HR. It was going to be labor relations. That's an area that I tend to do myself. And so I took a look back and said, well, where could I use the assistants? Instead of hiring an assistant town manager for $120,000, $130,000 plus benefits and retirement, I opted instead to give stipends to people already in full-time positions who take on a directorship, an executive directorship above that. That's what we did with Mark Tisdale last year in Development Services. I'm doing the same now with Janice Bruce, who has become our Executive Director of Human Services. That will now include Recreational and Youth Commission. That should say Youth Commission. There was a lot of discussion that it still be called the Youth Commission. So Recreational and Youth Commission, the Council on Aging, and the VNA, which she currently has as well. Next slide. Recreation Services and Youth Commission. Continued growth of programming, consolidation of the Youth Commission. It's consolidated from under the budget. So you'll see the Youth Commission zeroed and you'll see Recreation go up 83%. That's because Recreation got the funding underneath it for the counselors, for example, that are in the Youth Commission. The actual counseling will still take place over at the COA. There was a lot of discussion on that. The counselors felt that it was in the best interest. What really got consolidated was the management, the day-to-day management and scheduling of the counselors. We just did not need a separate position for that. 50%, there was a position of Director of COA and Recreation and Youth Commission. That position basically was not necessary. I have strong management over at COA, plus we have a VNA and a Veteran Services, so our elderly affairs are covered well. And I basically needed more than anything scheduling and oversight that I could gather under my Recreation Director. OASIS got pulled out from under the Youth Commission because really it doesn't belong there. It's a multi-department organization. We know that the opioid issue is growing. We know that drug use, particularly with COVID now, drug and alcohol use is becoming even more problematic. Substance abuse is leading to domestic violence, suicide rates, and all sorts of things. OASIS reports, it actually has a dual report. It reports to Trish Shropshire at IT, not because she's in IT, but because she's also a grant and billing oversight person for me. And I normally would not have that in that position. So Tricia's salary doesn't change. She just gets a stipend for overseeing that. And the clinical report for that goes to Janice. Again, OASIS is multi-department. It belongs to the police department, parks and recreation, the school department, the youth commission, and in some ways the COA. We see opioid addiction in the elderly as well. So we wanted to pull OASIS out and give it more of a an individual notice, because it does cross departments on a vast level. That will be housed in the new recreation building in the Randolph Savings Bank. And that was by design. We were originally going to put the youth commission there, but again, there were some concerns about that. So we housed it, instead, we are housing OASIS over there. We actually believe that programmatically, we can have recreational programs that promote the positive things that we are trying to promote in our OASIS program. Continued coordination of community efforts. We want to increase our recreational presence also over at the golf course, get young kids who may not otherwise have the opportunity over to the golf course, and really grow our recreational services program. We're a very strong leader over there in Matt Cauchon, and then Matt now reports into Janice Bruce as well. Next slide. Notable increases. 25% was based on actuals. This has nothing to do with COVID. These were just our unemployment claims last year. It's a 25% increase just in that line item. 18.4% on legal counsel. We have a lot of labor contract work that we've been doing. Hopefully that will start to wind down into next year. The increase in economic development was the addition of a consultant funding. That came directly out of, however, the town manager line item. There was a consultant line item in mind. We reduced that and sent a lot of it over to economic development. The select board line item, that's where we put the salary money for negotiations, just so I had it carved out and you could see above 1.5 how much money I was willing to put into contracts, because it's not always in salaries, it might be in other benefits. And then 10.36 overtime costs and dispatch. These are usually reimbursed through the Commonwealth. Next slide. Notable decreases. Debt service dropped off. The Cedar Hill subsidy. I promised this body last year that we would not have to subsidize Cedar Hill as much, and I'm pleased to say we do not. We reduced the subsidy. That is based on the prior year's performance. Extremely excited, anticipated, and that's with the COVID situation. I got these numbers today. Father's Day alone, last year we did $3,000. We thought it was a tremendous Father's Day. This year we did $4,000. So Cedar Hill is doing extremely well. And ironically, golf is one of the activities that people are able to do right now, and we are seeing the benefits of that. Town manager budget dropped. The biggest drop in that was that economic development shift. Procurement dropped. I want to thank Fran Brutinini. She may be on there listening. I hope she is. Fran moved into the procurement director position, and she did not feel the need to backfill herself as a deputy. She agreed that we could reduce that position to a clerk. But not only did we save because it's a clerical position, we hire now with everybody with the ability to be cross-trained. So when, for instance, economic development needs some assistance, we now have somebody in procurement who can go over and help. When tax collections needs assistance, we don't have to hire. We just transfer Sarah down there for a couple days as needed. So really, Fran's willingness has been tremendous. On top of that, Reggie, my administrative assistant, has also agreed to take on centralized purchasing off of procurement's plate so that we are distributing our work a little more evenly and we can save that money in procurement. And we had a drop in planning. That was a salary adjustment for newer employees as opposed to one who'd been here several years. Next slide. Major reallocations, highway construction, that's mostly OSHA compliance. The Board of Health, you'll see that reallocation. That's because we had to show exactly where his money was coming from to become the part-time code enforcement. The recreation, it increased 83.47, but that's offset by the 100% decrease in youth commission. That's literally just the joining of two budgets. There is no reduction in the salaries to the counselors. That they are still intact. They still will be doing their job. Council on Aging, we had a decrease. That has to do with the restructuring because, again, we say 50% on the director's position. And then 13.2 in the Water Enterprise Fund was saved. That's just usage and all of those good things in management. Next slide. Salary adjustments from the restructuring. Overall savings was $50,000 plus the savings of one healthcare plan and retirement. We increased a little bit to Mark Tisdale for taking over the building department. The increase, the assistant sanitarian, that's that part-time position. We increased him by about $6,000 compared to what we'd have had to pay about $20,000 for a part-timer to come in. There's a stipend for the IT and grant person for the oversight of the OASIS grants. She also will be doing oversight of any other grants that Sue Herman may not have time to take on. And again, I kept that separate as a stipend because I would not normally have an IT director do that. It's just that we have somebody with that skill set that's capable of it. We got rid of the director of the Youth Commission Council on Aging. Instead, we have a director of Recreation and Youth Commission, and we have a manager over at the Council on Aging. The decrease in the assistant building official to a code enforcement manager. The stipend for the new executive director of human services. Again, she will be doing the clinical oversight for the Youth Commission and the Council on Aging, as well as OASIS, and overseeing recreation and VNA. And a moderate increase in the HR position. That's now a non-union position, the assistant in the HR department. That should have been elevated a while ago and pulled out of the union. They do all of the unemployment work and healthcare for retirees, school department, and municipal. Next slide. We created a fleet maintenance division under Public Works. There's no cost associated with this. We had gas and car repair line items all over the place in the budgets. Some people would use none of it, and then they would spend it on other things. Some people would overspend because they had a car that broke down. We're basically creating a pool of vehicles now. And that pool will be managed under the software that fleet maintenance already has. It's a much cleaner way to start budgeting your automobile expenses. And really, no one department should have access to one car. Those should be pool cars for anybody who needs them. It saves us on mileage reimbursement as well when we start moving that direction. Next slide. Energy sustainability. There's $5,000 for a part-time line item. These positions tend to fund themselves. What happens is you get somebody on, they start writing grants. This is to make us more energy efficient. We should be saving large amounts of money and receiving good grant money if this happens. It's basically funded for about 5 months so that somebody can come on board, get going, and start writing their own grants and pay for themselves after that. Any benefits we gain will go to both the schools and the town. Next slide. Consideration of the schools. This was just the general breakdown that we were facing in January. In the end, the bottom line is we had a $472,000 gap in January. We again thought that might be covered with the student achievement money. In the end, we've decided not to anticipate increased funding from the Commonwealth. So Mr. Trunfio and his crew worked to close that gap. I had to find about 100,000. Dr. Marcus had to find about 100,000, and Mr. Trunfio was able to work about 270,000 through different stabilization funds. Next slide. That pretty much just says what I said. Next slide. We adjusted over 120 line items from the time my department directors brought this to me to the time we brought it to the board. We cut about $1.5 million off of what my directors wanted. We saved snow removal. We saved 100,000 right off the top. What I did discover was apparently our snow contractors were being paid a retainer just to sign on in Stoughton, even though we paid a tremendous hourly wage. This goes back to an old history of requiring some insurance of them that they don't really need. And if they were big companies, they already had. So because we were asking them to get something they didn't really need and the small companies couldn't afford it, we instead then paid them to come on board. It seemed ridiculous. We don't need the extra insurance. Maya, our insurance company, has indicated that we are fine. And as a result, we pulled away the retainers. If those companies, those large companies that didn't have to pay the insurance anyway, because they already had it, and we're just getting an extra 12 or 15,000 a year, don't like it, they don't have to come back. We'll find someone else. We pay good money. If you have a loader, we will pay you $250 an hour to move snow. So that seems to be an ample payment. And we save 100,000 a year on that. And then reasonable and restricted spending practices on school and municipal side. Dr. Marcus came in with a real tight budget as well. Next slide. Future goals. Obviously, we want to look at revenue sources outside of property taxes. You know, what can we do with growth? Reduction of overall budget is always a goal. And we did honor the reduction in the use of free cash as FinCom has put in front of us. We want to get rid of one-time budgeting. We are really just about there now as we reduce that. The final thing is to reduce that free cash number. But we are not plugging structural holes with revolving funds or anything like that in this budget. And that's really important that we don't do that. Next slide. COVID considerations. Again, we presume level funding, non-essential hiring freezes, non-essential spending, and constant consideration of FEMA and CARES. We're looking at about over $2 million in CARES reimbursement right now, plus FEMA reimbursement. Additionally, I did hear that, and I don't have it on full fact, but I heard that the mayor of Boston also presented a budget assuming level funding from the Commonwealth. I think that's a good sign for us. And we did hear in the past 2 days that the Commonwealth will be putting aside approximately $200 million to assist with COVID requirements in the schools. though we don't know what the restrictions on that money may be or how much exactly Stoughton is getting. With that said, I'm still asking for you to consider this budget as a level funded budget from a Commonwealth. I know there's a lot of up and down about what we should do about this. Should we be putting wage freezes in and all of those things? I can't go to unions and ask for wage freezes until I know exactly what's being cut. I have gone through this before. I've had budgets cut on me mid-year from the state in a past life, and that's when you go to the table and say, well, I had $7 million cut, union presidents, can you help me out? I cannot go to a table now and ask for a wage freeze on something that I may not need, if you will. So right now we are operating under the notion of level funding. We think that that's a prudent way to go. And again, just because it's in the budget does not mean I plan on spending it, particularly in those first few months. I anticipate a very early fall town meeting. If at that time we have had massive cuts or we've had major revenue losses, then I will have to make the decisions I may have to make on cutting. But at this point, we're not ready to do that. And we want people to know Stoughton is still a healthy town financially. Our numbers for 2020 are still going to be okay despite COVID. We had already made our hotel room receipt numbers. We were close on our restaurant numbers. We may be a little bit off, but we still got a lot. In the fourth quarter, we'll have some from delivery and takeout, but we were already doing very well. As I explained, our golf course numbers are actually up. We had $25,000 in 2 weeks alone in permitting fees during March and April. April, when things were really shut down, we had $25,000 in those fees. And we have about 5 major development projects ready to go in front of planning, including Malcolm Parsons. So, I mean, I just want people to know we are doing business in Stoughton and we are seeing development in Stoughton. So I am not at a point where I am ready to tear a budget apart and tear our services apart, because I want to encourage those developers who are looking right now to places to invest, because they are, that we are a place to do that. Next slide. That may be it, actually, I think. Is that it? And that is it. So with that said, I ask for your consideration. I have to be honest with you, there are no right answers right now. There is no playbook for the situation that we're in. I am doing my best to present to you what I believe is in the best interest of the town of Stoughton. Dr. Marcus and I have talked repeatedly about this budget. I certainly would defer to him to speak on his own behalf on this. But I ask for your consideration of this budget. Thank you.
Trumfield, did you want to give your recommendation? Ed? Trumfield? Can you unmute yourself? Please.
I got it now. Here we go. Yeah, well, the Finance Committee voted 15-1 to recommend to town meeting as set forth in the proposed motion.
Thank you. Christine Howe, Chairperson of the Select Board. Can you unmute Christine Howe, please?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm unmuted. The board obviously voted unanimously to move this forward and put it in the warrant, as Robin described. This is a challenging and unprecedented time, but quite frankly, there's a lot of unknowns, and we've worked really hard to pare down not only the individual budget while still maintaining level service and trying to achieve some of the goals that we've been putting off for several years. But also, as is evidenced by the number of articles that were dismissed at the beginning of this annual town meeting. So I'd hope that voters would consider this and understand all the work and time and effort that's been put in by the budget team, and specifically hone in on that 120 line items that have been adjusted in order to make this work. So I think Robin outlined everything pretty succinctly, and I hope that everyone will take their considerations into when they cast their vote.
Thank you, Christine.
Mr. Moderator, I apologize. Would you like me to speak?
Sorry, Marcus, go ahead.
Thank you.
Yes, just identify yourself so everybody can.
Good evening, everybody. I'm John Marcus. I'm the superintendent of schools, and just speak briefly about the Stoughton Public Schools budget. As folks have said, these are certainly unprecedented times, and in a year of tremendous ups and downs, there's one thing that remains consistent, and that's our children's health, safety, and education. It's got to be our #1 priority. I'm confident that our budget provides the funding for the essential resources that our children need to grow into successful citizens who give back to our community. So today, as we prepare for a fall that includes significant new challenges, more than ever, we're counting on our voted budget to keep the Stoughton schools strong. We're very confident and very excited about a budget that we believe is going to provide the best services for our students in the very best way possible. This year's budget we described as moderately progressive, meaning that it allows us to maintain outstanding services pre-K through 12. We've made some small increases primarily around state mandates, but we are very confident that this budget will provide the incredibly important services, the teaching, the resources needed for our students to become successful, strong citizens of this community. So with that, I appreciate support of the Stoughton Schools budget. Thank you.
Marcus. Sandra Gropey, would you like to say a few words as school committee? Sandra?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I just wanted to thank Dr. Marcus for all the hard work he's done this year, and I want just the members of town meeting to be mindful of all the hard work that we did, the school committee did, and Dr. Marcus and his staff for the budget. Now and any time, this is just as important to support the budget and ensure that in the fall, when the students go back to school, that we're able to provide to them all the support that they're going to need. They've had a very hard time, just like many families have, many adults. And we just want to, you know, our budget that we came forward with was quite conservative. And, you know, keeping that in mind, we've shifted some things around to ensure that we have the needs of the students, social, emotional, especially with the COVID pandemic and the state that we're in the world today. We just want to make sure that we're able to provide everything that we can. It's going to be a new door that they're opening in the fall. You know, it's a big change from what they came from over the past couple months to now. So we just want to, you know, let you all know that we hope that you support the budget and vote for it. It's just, it's, you know, we need to support the children. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Robin Zoll for the Southeastern Regional School. Did you want to speak? We just have to unmute her. Robin Zoll.
Unmute themselves.
Oh, Robin, can you unmute yourself? If you wanted to say anything.
I just wanted to say that Southeastern's been pretty responsible with our budget. Our budget numbers were based on numbers that we got from the state back in February. We passed it in March. We're at net school spending, so we really can't cut any further. But we are being responsible, and if the state numbers come in lower, we will make adjustments.
Did I say something wrong? All right, thank you, Robin.
Yeah.
Is there anything else, Robin? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
Is this what you said?
I didn't read it. Sorry for the delay. Mr. Trunfield, someone called in to ask if he could read the Finance Committee vote again on the amended motion. The committee recommendation.
Which, I don't know which, what do you want me to read? That's the one I already read.
Okay.
There's two kind of, can everybody hear me? It's like two sort of pieces. The motion was the funding source for the budget. And in the information we sent out to all the town meeting members that you should have got on Friday was the budget votes in and of themselves. And that's on the below the funding source recommendation. I can read that here if you would like me to. It was part of the information that was sent out to everybody that you received on Friday, along with my letter and a couple other amendment motions. Article 31, 49, and 51.
Yes, Ed, the Finance Committee voted 13-2, right?
No, 15-1.
On the amended motion.
For the funding source.
Right, okay, thank you. Right, time. Well, there are some hands raised. Don't want to keep delaying this. I'm asking you, if you raise your hand, if you have a significant issue, I'll call on you. But we really need to move this along. It's already 8:30 and we have we just have a time frame here. I just want to keep moving. If you have a point of order, keep your hand raised. Otherwise, please raise your, if you can put down your hands, otherwise I'll have to call on you. If there's a technical issue, please call tech support. I'll just give you a moment to see if you keep your hands raised up. I'll take a few of them. How? We unmute How? You can unmute yourself now. Deb Howe? Oh, she put a hand down. Juan Fox? Unmute Juan Fox. You can unmute yourself. Go ahead,
Mr. Moderator.
Precinct number, name and precinct number, please.
Juan Fox, Precinct 1.
Yes.
I was under the impression that on the dismissal vote that Article 50 was to be included with that.
We're beyond that right now. It will be included. It was left
In a different section.
Mr. Fox, we'll get back to that. We can bring that up a little bit later, but right now we're in Article 20.
Right, but I get it. My hand's been up since Article 1. And
I understand, Mr. Fox, but I appreciate your comments. We will so note that Article 50 would be brought to dismiss at a later point in time. Thank you very much. Mr. Anzavino, John Anzavino, name and precinct number, please.
Yes, Mr. Moderator. John Anzavino, Precinct 4.
Good evening.
How are you?
Very good. And yourself, sir?
Getting there slow, I guess.
Yes, we're getting there.
I got a question for you. Number one, I thought the presentations were going to be limited to 10 minutes.
That's correct, but seeing I held up the, the
right.
town manager a little bit.
Well, that went 20, and because now everybody's only going to get 3 minutes to respond. So number one, this was not a level funded budget. It was level service. So the funding has gone up. Number two, the Finance Committee vote was 13-2 when we voted on the 11th of June, not 15-1 as far as the funding source. The other point that some of us on the committee wanted to make was that the budgets were done separately because we had people that had to recuse themselves. So we did 3 votes. There was a vote on the town clerk's budget that was 15 for, no one against, and 1 abstention. That was Mr. Carrara.
Did you want me to read that, John?
No, the school budget was 12-3-1.
There you go.
With Diane Dolan recusing herself. And then originally, the budget failed because it came out 8-8. It was then passed 10-6 before the funding was eventually done at 13-2. And that's a distinction that should be made, okay, in my opinion, because that's what we actually wanted to go out to people. And then as far as the other, questions were raised, Bob, just so you know. Questions were raised about that other article, whether it was or was not included, because it showed up in a couple of places, but we didn't think
it was just a typo. John, can I just explain for a minute? Just a minute.
Sure.
Give me a minute. Thank you. The Article 50 was left off the poll. We'll bring that up as soon as we can.
Okay, but it's just that when you send a question in, the way it's coming back, well, we're bringing, just like the time. There was many people that asked about the time of the presentations, and it just said, well, that's fine. We're bringing it to people's attention. But if the points that are being asked in the Q&A are just being ignored, what good is it?
Not, John.
Well, nothing was mentioned about the timing issue, and nothing was mentioned about Article 50 at the time. And, whatever. I'm just, it gets very frustrating.
John, I don't mean to frustrate you. We're dealing with one thing at a time. We're trying to get through the night, through the budget. But again, I will say that Article 50 was an oversight. It will be brought back up as time allows this evening, if not, definitely tomorrow night. Hopefully we get it back in tonight for dismissal. Also, the amended motion for the Article 20, that whole package was mailed out to every single town meeting rep.
Yes.
And it's also on the town's website. So thank you for your comments. I appreciate you bringing it up. And it was not to intentionally mislead anybody at all. The information is all transparent on the website. And I appreciate your comments, John. Okay.
But Bob, it's true. It went out to the town meeting reps and everything, but the people who are watching this live or streaming should understand that, this is an issue.
Okay.
That's all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John. I appreciate your comments. One more, Pat Colburn. Can you unmute Pat Colburn?
Can you hear me?
I do, Pat. Go ahead.
I don't know if this is applicable anymore. I also had my hand raised for a long time, but I'd like to know who's in the room with you since we're not allowed to second motions. I know Jim Guerin asked it and you said you'd explain, but who are the people doing the seconding since we're not allowed to?
The seconding?
Seconding motions.
Dean Fleming, Town Meeting Rep Precinct 7. Stephanie Carrara, Town Meeting Rep Precinct 2. And Cynthia Walsh, Town Meeting Rep Precinct 2.
So are they the only three who'll be allowed to second motions
No,
all
not
evening?
at all, just to keep things moving. Not at all, Pat. If you want a second, just raise your hand or write in and we'll get to you.
I just want to make sure there's a way for people to do that. Thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry, Pat. Yes. Yes, it just will slow it down. I was just hoping to get into Article 20 at this point. Okay.
Thank you.
I want to go to Michael. Thank you, Pat. I want to go to Michael Hartman. He's been up there, his hand up there for a while. Can we unmute Michael Hartman, please? Go ahead, Michael. Name and precinct number. You have to unmute yourself. Go ahead, Michael, if you can. If I see your hand raised, Michael, I'll give you a couple of minute or two to kind of unmute yourself. Click on the microphone button. Okay, we'll come back to you. Carolyn Campbell, can we unmute Carolyn Campbell, please, so we can move along?
Hi, Mr. Moderator.
Yes, Carolyn.
Carolyn Campbell, Precinct 5.
Yes.
How are we going to be able to ask questions on the budget or indicate we want to talk about a specific section of the budget?
I'm gonna go slowly through that in just a minute. I just want to take some of these questions. I appreciate you bringing that up, Carolyn. I will go very slowly through. It's gonna be we're gonna try to keep it very similar to like we do in the auditorium. We're gonna use, we'll do it in a minute.
Okay, because the Q&A is not working.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Carolyn. Michael Hartman, did you want to try to? I see you put your hand down. Next up is one last one here, Linda Gerton. If we can unmute her. Linda, go ahead. Name and precinct number, please.
Spreadsheet is located. I never did receive this, so I'd like to know where it is so I can get a copy of it.
You have to speak up a little bit. I can't really hear you.
I want to know where it is on the town website because I did not receive a copy of this spreadsheet for the town budget.
One more time, Linda. I'm sorry. Something on the town website?
Yes, I'm looking for a copy of this budget that was sent out that I never received.
You're talking about the motion or the warrant?
Bob, she's talking about the town budget. Her question has to do with whether or not she received the town budget. And if so, can we direct her to where it is located on the website?
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, if I may, it's on the government tab under town manager. And then when you click on that, you can scroll to the left. Down the bottom, there'll be a town meeting 2020. If you open that tab, there's about 4 PDF documents, and the FinCom correspondence is included in that.
Thank you.
Linda, yeah, the budget now, how we're gonna go through the process. Let me just find my section here. Okay, I'm gonna read it very slow. This is Article 20, the budget article. And after I get reading this, Town Accountant Bill Rowe will announce the budget, department numbers, and go very slowly. And we're gonna wait for a hold. But let me just read through this here. Bill Rowe will read each section of the budget by page number, title, and total recommended allowance recommended by the Finance Committee. There will be a brief pause after each section. If you wish further clarification of that section, or you wish to debate that section, please click on the Q&A on the bottom of your screen, type in your name and enter the word hold, capital letters if you can, HOLD, and hit return. And and also add the department name, please. So I'll say that again. After Bill Rowe, the town accountant, reads off the department name and the title of the account, and the recommended allocation as recommended by the Finance Committee, there will be a brief pause. If you decide you wish further clarification of that section, or you wish to debate that section, please click on the Q&A on your screen, type in your name, into the word hold, but please also put the department number so we know what you want to discuss. Okay? Again, I'll read that one more time. After Bill Rowe finishes reading off the title, page number, recommended allocation, we'll pause. There'll definitely be a pause. And if you wish further clarification of that section or wish to debate that section, please click on the Q&A and type in your name, department number, and the word hold. Just make sure department number is in there next to your name and hold, so we know. And hit return. Okay, the Q&A is being monitored. It's going to be a little bit of a slow process, but let's take our time and get it done. Yeah, and after Bill, let me just take a sip of water here, please. Excuse me, my mouth is getting a little dry. After Bill Rowe goes through the whole process, the whole budget, reading all the department numbers and the numbers and the allocated amount, we'll come back to everybody. Okay? It's going to take a little bit of time, but we'll get through it. All right. Okay, and I will also announce a hold after Bill Rowe reads the department number, title, and allocation. If you type in something, I'll be monitoring and I'm going to announce your name too, so we know that you got a hold on there. I'll ask the people here also to write the names down here so we have a couple of different verifications, so we don't miss anybody. All right. I don't think we have the budget on the screen, so no. So let's just take our time and read through it. All right, William Rowe, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Bill Rowe, Town Accountant. Good evening, everybody. If you'd all turn to page 64 in your books, we'll get started. Okay, page 64, Department number 111, Town Council, $296,000.
Go ahead. I don't see any holds.
Page 65, Department number 114, Moderator, $1,000.
Okay, next, William.
Page 66, Department number 122, Select Board. Now this budget, you have to reduce the amount in the book by $510,000. So we have to subtract 510,000 from that number that's printed in the book. So the total dollar amount for the select board is $145,463.
All right, I do see a hold for 122, Pat Colburn. If everybody will help me write down the name so we get a couple of verifications. Also, another one, Mark Zemanian, hold select board. And also, I should announce that we'll do like we did in the last year in the auditorium. Once we go back after the whole budget gets talked through, we'll come back and other people that want to talk about that budget can discuss it too, as time allows. Yeah, and the tech people, please hold it, keep the holds up there, don't close them out so we can go back so there won't be any problems. All right, hang on a second, William Rowe. All right, let's proceed.
Page 67, department number 123, town manager, $424,566.
All right, I don't see any holds. Go ahead, William.
Page 68, department number 131, finance committee, $417,250.
No holds, go ahead.
Page 69, department number 135, town accountant, $309,249.
I see no holds on that. Go ahead.
Page 70, department number 138, centralized purchasing, $114,600.
Hold on a second, Bill. I need to check. Someone's asking for, make a comment here. George Dolinsky. Can we unmute George Dolinsky, please, to the tech team?
Mr. Moderator, Mr. Moderator, point of personal privilege here, however you want to word it. Can we do something in the future about these budget books? Having a shadowing of the final numbers, it's very impossible to read black under gray. It's very difficult to read. I don't know if anybody else is having this problem, but
okay. Could I, George? Yeah. Thank you very much. It's duly noted. Thank you very much. I've seen that. Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Hang on a second. Bill Rowe, can you repeat on page 70? Let's do that one more time, that one.
Page 70, department number 138, centralized purchasing, $114,600.
Oh, let's move on, Bill.
Page 71, department 141, board of assessors, $344,225.
I don't see any hold. Let's move on.
Page 72, department 145, treasurer collector, $541,651.
What department was that, William?
Department 145, treasurer collector, page 72.
There's a hold. Pat Colburn. Can everybody write that one down too so we verify that one? Pat Colburn, is that no? You remove that hold?
No, I thought Bill had misread a number on the Board of Assessors, but I could be wrong. But I maybe got it in too fast, so I don't have any questions on the treasurer collector.
Board of Assessors?
I just thought he read it wrong, but it could be me.
Okay, since we're here, why don't we just, William, can we go back to page 71, 141, Assessors?
Page 71, Department 141, Board of Assessors, $344,225.
Thank you.
You okay, Pat?
Yes, thank you.
No hold? No hold? Okay, next.
Page 72, Department 145, Treasurer Collector, I read this already, $541,651.
Okay, no hold. Go ahead.
Page 73, Department number 152, Human Resources, $158,027.
We have a hold. Mark Zemanian, hold. For Human Resources. Please keep that up there, the tech team. Please keep that listing. Okay, William.
Page 74, Department 153, Procurement, $146,041.
All right, let's move on.
Page 75, Department 155, Information Systems, $500,272.
We have a hold. Carolyn Campbell. All right, William.
Page 76, Department number 159, Facilities, $684,305.
Okay, go ahead.
Page 77, Department 161, Town Clerk, $283,587.
Oh, there's a hold. Mark Zemanian. All right, let's go on.
Page 78, Department number 175, Planning Board, $124,973.
Okay, let's move on.
Page 79, Department number 176, Economic Development, $101,326.
Okay, no hold. Let's move on.
Pages 80 and 81, Department number 210, Police, $7,572,495.
Okay, let's move on.
Page 82, Department number 213, Crossing Guards, $118,047.
All right, let's move on.
Page 83, Department number 217, Civilian Dispatchers, $866,443.
All right, let's move on.
Pages 84 and 85, Department number 220, Fire, $6,692,882.
Okay, let's move on, please.
Page 86, Department number 241, Building and Zoning, $379,802.
Okay, let's move on, please.
Page 87, Department number 292, Animal Control, $73,423.
Okay, let's move on, please.
Page 88, Department number 301, Regional Schools, $1,376,504.
Okay, let's move on.
Page 89, Department number 411, Development Services / Engineering, $592,873.
All right, let's move on.
Pages 90 and 91, Department number 421, DPW General and Highway Administration, $1,145,155.
Okay, I have a hold. Mark Zemanian. let's move on.
Page 92, Department number 422, DPW, Highway Construction and Maintenance, $399,100.
Okay, let's move on.
Page 93, Department number 423, Snow Removal, $400,000.
All right, let's move on, please.
Page 94, Department 424, Street Lighting, $260,000.
Okay, let's move on.
Page 95, Department number 426, Fleet Maintenance, $33,500.
All right, let's move on.
Pages 96 and 97, Department number 423, Waste Disposal Sanitation, $2,161,003.
I see no hold. Let's move on.
Page 98, Department 505, Human Services, $11,800.
I see no hold. Let's move on.
Page 99, Department 510, Board of Health, $177,959.
Okay, I see no hold. Let's move on.
Page 100, Department number 541, Council on Aging, $411,456.
Hang on a second. See something. Yep, we'll get a hold. Carolyn Campbell. That's Department 541. Just 1 second, please. All right, let's move on.
Okay, page 101, Department number 542, Youth Services, $0. And as the town manager explains, that money has been reallocated to substance abuse and recreation departments.
All right, let's move on.
Page 102, Department 543, Veteran Services, $576,677.
I'm sorry, I did see, let me back up. I did see a hold SYC from Carolyn Campbell. I'm sorry, Carolyn, screen didn't pop up on me. So we do have a hold on SYC, Youth Services. Okay, that was 542. Bill, could you read 543 again for us?
Sure, page 102, Department 543, Veteran Services, $576,677.
Okay, see no hold. Let's move on.
Page 103, Department 544, Substance Abuse and Prevention, $86,681.
All right, see no hold. Go ahead.
Page 104, Department 610, Library, $1,170,000.
Hold on a second. I'm sorry. Hold on. They typed in Oasis. Okay, is that the same department? William, Oasis, Old Oasis? I assume it is.
That's an organization, not a department, but.
Carolyn Campbell, can we unmute Carolyn Campbell for clarification?
If I might, Mr. Moderator, those are presumed to be interchangeable, those terminologies.
Okay, I'll go ahead.
I'm assuming that's what she's probably trying to ask on.
544, yes, Carolyn Campbell. Okay. Let's go on. We did 544. Please go on, Bill.
Page 104, Department 610, Library, $1,178,999.
Okay, let's move on.
Page 105, Department 615, Historical Commission, $800.
Let's move on.
Page 106, Department number 630, Recreation and Youth Services, $471,149.
Hang on a minute. Yeah, we do have a hold. Carolyn Campbell. All right, let's move on.
Page 107, Department 650, Parks, $318,572.
All right, let's move on.
Page 108, Department number 695, Community Events, 51.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Bill. Let me just take a look here. Carolyn Campbell, hold recreation, we did that. I don't see a hold on parks, am I correct on that? Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead, Bill, page 108.
Page 108, Department 695, Community Events, $51,990.
All right, see no hold.
Page 109, Department 710, Retirement of Debt, $8,152,350.
All right, let's move on.
Page 110, Department 909, Health Insurance, $10,248,947.
All right, see no hold. Go ahead.
Page 11, Department number 910, Townwide Insurance, $1,817,268.
All right, see no hold. Move on, please.
Page 112, Department number 913, Unemployment Compensation, $50,000.
All right, let's move on.
Page 112, Department number 940, Other Financing Uses, which is the Cedar Hill Fund Subsidy, $60,895.
All right, let's move on.
And page 121, give you a few minutes to get there, or a few seconds.
Sure.
Page 121. Page 121, Department number 300, Stoughton Public Schools, $49,835,061. $49,835,061.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay, it's a grand total, Mr. Moderator, of $106,419,953 for the general fund.
Thank you, Bill. You read that very well. Thank you very much. All right, let's, if I just get some verification, like to count up the number of holds we have, and we'll go back. Just give me about 2 minutes, please. Oh, okay. I'm just going to confirm the hold, so please just bear with us for a minute. Thank you. All right, thank you for waiting and pausing there. I just want to go back and, okay, we have a total of 11 holds, and that includes 10 departments. There was 2 people on 1 department. Okay, Department 122, Select Board, Pat Colburn, and Mark Semanian. What we're gonna do is, we're gonna go back and talk to each one, and if you have any questions, like anybody else in just Department 122, Select Board, you can raise your hand and we'll get to you. 1 second, please. Okay. I was just asked to read the holds through so we get confirmation from the people watching in the town meeting reps. All right, so on page 66, Department 122, Select Board, Pat Colburn, Mark Semanian. Page 73, Department 152, Human Resources, Mark Semanian. Page 75, Department 155, Information Systems, Carolyn Campbell. Page 77, Department 161, Town Clerk, Mark Semanian. Then we have on page 90 and 91, Department 421, DPW and the Highway Department, Mark Semanian. And on page 100, Department 541, Council of Aging, Carolyn Campbell. And on page 101, Department 542, Youth Services, Carolyn Campbell. Page 103, Department 544, Substance Prevention, also known as part of that OASIS, Carolyn Campbell. Page 106, Department 630, Recreation, Youth Services, Carolyn Campbell. Page 108, Department 695, Community Events, Mark Struck. And that's all we have. All right, so let's go back to page 66, Department 122, Select Board. Pat Colburn, we're gonna let you, we're gonna unmute you, we're gonna try to unmute you, and you have the floor, Pat. Could you just state your name and precinct number, please?
Pat Colburn, Precinct 4. Oh,
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Bill Rowe partially answered the question with the 510,000 coming out. I understand the CPC is paying for that, but since this is a balanced budget, what will happen to the 510,000? Since it's not going into another budget.
Oh, I'll let Robin Grimm, you want to talk about that? If you want
Actually,
to.
I'll defer to Bill on that. That's
Sure.
a more of a budgetary type thing, a line item shift.
Bill Rowe?
Yes, hi, Mr. Moderator. Thank you, Ms. Colburn. The 510,000 was initially planned to be as a line item in the select board budget. The DOR won't let us use CPA funds to fund the general fund budget, so it's been moved to Article 31. And the funding source, the community preservation funds, has been taken out of that motion. So it originally was in the motion, but now it's been taken out with the amended motion for Article 20 that they did on June 11th.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. So what you're saying is that $510,000 will be taken from this budget and used as a funding source for, I believe you said Article 31?
No, Mr. Moderator, if I may respond to that. Pat, the 510,000 was from the CPA budget. So it was never from the general operating revenue. It was always going to be funded out of CPA. And we wanted to put it in to the operating budget as a mechanism to fund it on this town meeting without having to adhere to the special town meeting timelines, so that we could get the program activated by July 1. This meeting makes it then. We found out that the better way to do this in accordance with the CPA and what they prefer, as Mr. Rowe mentioned through DOR, was to do it as an amendment on the CPA's budget itself. So that same amount of funding that was going to come out of the CPA budget is now part of the CPA's budget. and you'll see it as a line there. So it was never part of the levy technically, or the revenue.
Thank you, Select Person Howe. Was that number then not included in the 106 million that Mr. Trumpio read to us? Was the 510 never in that total?
I don't believe so. Bill, you probably can speak to
Yes,
that.
yeah, that's correct. That was not included in the number that Mr. Trunfio read.
Okay, thank you.
You okay, Pat, now? You good?
Yes, I'm set. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mark Semanian, let's unmute Mark Semanian for your questions. Mark, you have to unmute yourself. There you go. Name and precinct number, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mark Semanian, Precinct 1. My question is about the line item in the Board of Select Board's budget that says reserved for negotiations. It's at $123,133. Would like, first of all, to get some clarification on page, I apologize, on page 57, it is written in as an increased selectmen reserve for salary increases. And then it is on the line item as a reserve for negotiation. I presume, just for clarifications, that this money is allocated for salary increases through you, Mr. Moderator, to whoever can answer that.
Yes, Mr. Moderator?
Yes, Dr. Grimm.
I can take that one.
Sure,
So, yeah, so as you know, we had 2 years that we had 1.5, 2 unions that had taken 1.5s. One union last year went into a 3-year. So we are facing 7 contracts again. As I indicated, the whole budget reflects a 1.5% salary increase for everybody, presuming that was going to be a minimum or maybe a maximum, depending on what the negotiation with each unit was going to be. That other line item in the Board of Selectmen's budget is a little bit of a variation if I had one union that gave back other things and got a 1.75, for example. You'll see 2 contracts coming up to you right now that have, I think, 1.5s for next year, but there are other offsets as well. This basically is so that if we had some small increases above the 1.5, we would not put the budget into the red inappropriately. So that's what that is. It primarily would be under wages. That's where that would ultimately go, because we did budget 1.5. Right now, what I've put in front of you is not going to be any cost increase on what is budgeted in 21, the contracts that I have coming up. But again, we have more contracts to negotiate, and you would hopefully see some of those in the fall town meeting when we do that. But yes, that line item is presumably for salaries. Again, I didn't want to put a specific salary increase in because I didn't want to publicly say, okay, this is what we plan on giving unions. That kind of takes my poker hand away from negotiating. No offense to my union leadership that might be listening. But the reality is, I'm telling everybody there's a 1.5 sort of minimum. But we all know that in negotiations, that would probably be a fair minimum to start with. So I don't feel like I'm giving anything away. That little other pot of money is what I have to work with to give and take, because we've gotten some management rights back in some cases. We're getting people off grids. And in doing that, there's a little bit of a cost sometimes somewhere else that we have to give up for long-term benefit.
Right. I understand that, and I thank you for that explanation. I do have a concern about it being a line item in the select board's budget. I know that the charter speaks about allowing the town manager to be able to do his or her job without undue influence. Is this the best place to put that funding, or perhaps should we consider moving that money to, say, the Finance Committee and Taxation, Finance and Taxation Committee's budget, and which it could easily be doled out of there?
I mean, I'm sort of ambivalent about where that money is located. I think we put it there because the board is the one who initially has to vote on my MOAs to move them forward. I would defer to select person Howe if she has any feelings on that. From my position, I think when I was working with the budget team and we talked about how we wanted to do this, do we want to quote like bury it in salaries or put it out there for everybody to see as a lump sum number? We just felt that it was appropriate to put it in the board line item because they are the first line to review any of these contracts, and they would have to look totally at that number before they could approve my MOAs anyway. So I think that was our thinking behind it, but I certainly would defer to Selectwoman Howe for any comments she may have on that for Chairman Howe.
Thank you, Dr. Grimm. Yeah, I would concur that the board ultimately signs the MOAs, which may have the built-in increases or the amounts. So having that line live in our budget makes sense in terms of we're aware of how much the increase will be and what the impact will be on the budget. It could live in the town manager's budget if we wanted. Again, we don't, go through any spending authorization process besides executing those MOAs. So that was the thinking in putting in the board's line item, as Dr. Grimm also mentioned, to have it a little more transparent as opposed to hiding it as a percent, or not hiding it, but building it in as a percent on each salary for each individual department.
Yeah, and I appreciate that explanation. It certainly makes sense, but doesn't the Finance Committee also vote on that MOA and ultimately the contract? Isn't it aren't they the vehicle that this ultimately goes through?
Actually, it can't get to finance unless it goes through the board. So that they are the first step.
No, understood that, but the Finance Committee is the final step. Well, besides us, obviously, it's on me.
That's just it. You were actually ultimately the final step, and then Finance Committee is certainly an advisory portion of this.
Correct. I guess one of my concerns is we've never put the money there before, so we're setting a precedent that I have concerns, with future boards and how that money could be allocated. I guess it has nothing to do with this board. It's about all boards. I mean, boards change on a regular basis. So I'm just a little concerned about setting this precedent with such a large number, where the charter kind of likes to keep this separate.
I understand.
Let me just say, Dr. Grimm, sorry to interrupt. You expending your time, Mr. Zemanian. I'll let Dr. Grimm answer your question, though. Go ahead, Dr. Grimm. Sorry for the interruption.
No problem. Very quickly, I understand that concern, but I think because it's never happened in the past, because it's always sort of just been built into the budget and never clearly expressed exactly what the anticipated costs would be. So in an effort for the transparency, we put it in the board line item. I think the fact that it's discussed publicly at town meeting is your check and balance on this. If a board tried to go rogue with this money, it would be very, very transparent, as opposed to actually putting it in the budgets where you could have directors or a town manager allow for it to be spent all over the place, because once it's in a salary line item, it can be transferred within that department all year. This actually carves it out in a more separate way so that it gets a little more protected. Just my thoughts on that.
So just for clarification, that money can only be spent on negotiations or salary increases. Is that correct?
Always through me, please. Always through. I'm trying to be polite, but please address.
Through you, yes. I thought we were in the middle of a conversation, but that's okay. Through you, Mr. Moderator.
You're out of time.
Yeah, I'm almost finished. We've had a back and forth here, Mr. Zemanian. I missed.
You have to lock down, Mr. Zemanian. Thank you very much.
That's not really fair government, Mr. Mullen.
Transparent, efficient, and fair. Thank you.
It's not at all.
All right, who's next? I just want to add to the holds, Jess Minor wants to hold Economic Development, Department 176. There was a problem with their system. I'm sorry, page 79. Why not the others? Okay, I'm sorry, it was just a little communication issue here. All right, so we're going to, thank you, Dr. Grimm, for those comments. We're going to Department 152, Human Resources, Mark Zemanian again. I just want to remind everybody you have 3 minutes. Now, we're not going to deduct 3 minutes from the time from the speakers that provide you the answers, but we're closely monitoring the comments from the town meeting reps. We just have to keep them short to 3 minutes so we can get through this evening. Thank you. Mr. Zemanian, go ahead, Department 152.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Through you, just curious about the 200% increase in the office supplies cost. I didn't see any notation. Maybe I missed it.
Deanna, are you on that? Deanna indicated that she's muted. Bob, can you unmute her?
What's your last name? I'm sorry, Robin.
Chatsko, Chatsko.
We asked for, yeah, we got her. We got her in the process. Thank you. Now she has to unmute herself now. Deanna, unmute yourself.
All set?
Yes, you're all set, please.
Okay. It is listed a little bit, it might be hard to read. It's on the bottom about the office supplies. They were cut way back last year. We do payroll in-house, so we do have to buy the micro ink for the printer and the W-2 stock, W-2 envelopes, things like that. So that's why we had to increase that up back to where we needed. We ended up having, I believe it was IT ended up buying our ink for us this past year.
Thank you for that explanation, Deanna.
Sure, no
And
problem.
we do save a large amount of money by keeping this in-house.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. I just noticed it was a big bump, that's all.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, don't forget comments through the moderator, please. You okay, Mr. Zemanian now? All set?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, I am.
All right, thank you. All right, Department 155. Actually, hold on, I have a hand raised here. I'd like to Mr. John Morton. Okay, Mr. Morton, go ahead. Identify yourself with the precinct number 2. Unmute yourself, Mr. Morton. Go ahead, Mr. Morton. Name and precinct number. We're not hearing you. There's a problem with your microphone. Anybody pick them up? All right, we'll have to come back to you, Mr. Morton. Jess Minor. Unmute Jess Minor. You had your hand raised.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, name and precinct, please.
Yes, Jess Minor, Precinct 5.
Yes.
I apologize because I think I put my hold on the wrong department. I was too busy trying to get it to register in the Q&A. But could somebody please point me to the page in the department that includes, I guess it's not just Economic Development Services, but it's the department that Mark Tisdale oversees.
Economic Development, Department 176, Bill Rowe, can you, or Dr. Grimm?
Mr. Moderator, if I may, go ahead, Robin. Go ahead. Yeah, Mark Tisdale is listed as the Executive Director of Development Services. It's sort of a standalone, and then he has a host of other departments under him.
Yes, okay, got it. So, sorry, I think I meant page 89 for those who are listening, not 79.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, we'll put you down there, Jess, because I know you had a problem with your system. We'll come back to you on
page 89, yes.
89.
But I also had raised my hand because I had a quick question about the select board budget that I was going to follow on before you had moved ahead. So if I could just quickly ask now.
Yes, if it's quick through the moderator.
It's very quick. It's simply just a question about the $3,000 for furniture for the select board. It didn't seem to be a department request, and then it ended up in the FinCom budget. And I was just hoping somebody could clarify what the thinking is behind putting money to furniture right now. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody? Dr. Grimm?
I believe this was a request from the board to have tables made for the great room to make them able to move around a bit more. They're being made locally by, I believe, the regional tech school. Chairman Howe, you may have more detail on this than I do, but they're being made for us, and I believe the 3,000 is for materials, as I understand it. Yeah, I don't have any additional information on that specific. Yeah, Mr. Trump, I know Mr. Trumpio, the request had come in through you, to you, so you may have a little more detail on where those were, what the backup detail on that.
That was.
Am I
Brumfield?
on?
Go ahead, Ed, you're on.
Am I on?
Yes, you are, Ed.
Yeah, Selectman O'Regan requested, that we put in some money to rearrange the furniture for the, Great Hall. Because, the way it's currently structured, it's not conducive to rearranging or, breaking up into other groups. So he suggested we put some amount in for, to have the kids at Southeastern Regional make the tables for us. And that's for the materials cost.
Does that answer your question, Jess?
Yes, thank you for the clarification.
Thank you very much. Okay, Joseph Scardino's hands was raised.
I can, withdraw that. That was about the raises thing. We've done that in the past. It's not a good practice, and, we
What's
haven't
that?
done it in a
What are
few
you talking
years.
about? Sorry.
The BOS budget, the 110, whatever, the raise line, negotiation line.
Wait a minute, Ed, we're all set with that right now. Hang on a second, Mr. Trumfield. Joe Scardino, if you want to mute Joseph. You have the floor, Joseph. We saw your hand raised before. You have to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we do.
Precinct 1, Joe Scardino, Precinct 1.
Thank you. Go ahead.
On the question of the BOS budget, amount that Mr. Zemanian raised, through you to the town manager or the accountant, what happens so that money is not spent on union negotiations?
It would end up back as turn back money at the end.
And that money couldn't be used for any other category under the BOS?
Well, technically, if the board wanted to overspend its line items, they can do intra-departmental transfer within their own line items if they had money they wanted to spend for some reason, but there would be a public recognition of that. That would be something you would all see. If in the fourth quarter, the town wanted to use it to transfer it somewhere else, we would have to go in front of FinCom for any interdepartmental transfers. So the public would see any use of that, but I can assure you that from my end is not the spirit of that. And frankly, the board doesn't really spend money on anything. So I would be hard pressed to imagine them suddenly coming up with some massive expenditure that they wanted to buy for themselves.
I was concerned that perhaps they could use it for
defer to the chairman
consulting,
on that, but I don't envision any use of it that
consulting or appraisals or outside counsel, special counsel.
Mr. Moderator? Mr. Moderator?
I'm sorry, I was on mute. I was muted. Hey, Bill.
Yeah, through you to the speaker. That reserve for salary negotiations is a standalone budget item. It cannot be commingled with other expenses. Dr. Grimm says, yeah, we could, the FinCom and the selectmen could move it at the end of the year to another department. But that's a standalone budget.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rowe.
Oh, we all set, Joseph?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
You're welcome, Mr. Scardino. Okay, let's move on. I don't see. We all said, okay, we're going to move on. Page 5, Department 155, Information Systems. Carolyn Campbell, we can unmute Carolyn Campbell, please. Just unmute yourself, Carolyn, and state your name and precinct number again, please.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Campbell, Precinct 5.
Yes.
I have a question about this account. Where is the stipend that is being paid for the supervision of the OASIS of the substance abuse program?
If anybody can answer that.
I believe the stipend is actually in the OASIS line item.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Is that okay, Carolyn? You're all set?
Yeah, that's okay for now. Yep.
Thank you very much. Let's move on. We have page 77, Department 161, Town Clerk, Mark Semanian. Can we unmute Mark Semanian? Mr. Zemanian, please state your name and precinct number again.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mark Semanian, Precinct 1. I just had a quick question. I noticed that the line item for Program Admin 2 was only funded for half the year. Through you, Mr. Moderator, can somebody answer that? Why?
Go ahead, Dr. Grimm.
So that was originally funded full. That is the line item for what we loosely call the assistant town clerk. That position right now could not be filled. As you know, the town clerk is currently in an interim capacity, and the select board has voted, in fact, last week to move forward on making a decision on that. We could not fill that position anyway until that decision is formalized. In our discussions and trying to find the $100,000 to close the $472,000 gap, given that once if the current person is made permanent, we still have to advertise that. So there would be at least a couple of months between advertising and interviews before that position would be filled anyway. So we would have been pushing October, November. So at this point, we decided to hold on to funding for that for January, because we don't know how long the hiring process is exactly going to be if the interim for the full-time position to be established. And I can't hire that position anyway, because if the interim clerk were not to be selected as the full-time permanent position, she would resume her old role. If we're hiring an outside clerk, we probably wouldn't be bringing them in till December anyway. So it's a matter of floating a couple months. And it was a place that for budgetary reasons, we knew we weren't probably going to use that money for at least the first 3 or 4 months of the fiscal year. And so we said we could probably float it for a little bit more. Right now with COVID and reduced workload, for example, in our library, we're able to move some part-time staff over there to assist. We've been working with moving cross-trained people around to help backfill for Stephanie in the meantime. I know it's a lot of work to be covering sort of both of those jobs now, but in an effort to just tighten down, hold a little bit on hiring, because we pretty much have a hiring freeze on anyway, except for critical, we thought we could kind of float a few months on that position. But the intention will be to fill that position full-time, whether the interim goes back to that or if she is appointed permanent, we hire for that position.
You just figure you won't get that hired until January, so there's your 6-month salary balance.
We realistically would have been looking at least October when we're talking about timeframes in the summertime and getting everybody together in virtual meetings and advertising, depending on which direction the board wants to go with the clerk's position. And then that position falls into place after that. So given that we knew we were probably not going to be till at least October, November when I needed to find funding, we said, well, let's just put it at 6 months and we'll hire it for January.
Okay. Thank you for that. Hopefully, Stephanie does get that full-time town clerk's position. She certainly deserves it. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Moderator, you're on mute again. It's okay.
Thank you, Christine. Appreciate it. So Jess Minor, let's unmute Jess Minor. And I believe, Jess, you wanted to talk about Department 411. That's correct?
That is correct. This is Jess Minor, Precinct 5, also member of the Finance Committee. And I just wanted to ask about the department head salary and the 4.76% raise here. I'm taking the opportunity to pick on our beloved Mark Tisdale because he is so beloved, and I think that everybody understands what a great asset he is to the town. And so I want to bring this up as more of a general point, but a specific point to his salary line. I know that from last year, he had already received a 17% raise. His salary was $118,137, and that was raised up, approved to $138,408. And then for this year, we're looking at another 4.76% raise up to $145,000 on top of that. And my point is that in the town manager's presentation, there was mention of not wanting to negotiate union raises right now, which I have accepted throughout the FinCom proceedings. It's very, very reasonable to understand all of the complexities of that. But I had been asking about all of these non-union salary increases, and especially increases at the highest level. I think that it's important for us to look at all of the places where we have these kinds of non-union higher paid employee increases, and to ask ourselves in a time when we're facing a recession and or depression, whether it's fair to the taxpayers to ask them to pay for increases of these sorts to higher paid employees when those employees are the very ones who are the most likely to be able to bear the economic hit, as it were, to stay at a salary of only, say, $138,000. And this has absolutely nothing to do with how deserving and how hard people work in the town. I think that's true up and down and across the board. I think it's simply a matter of feeling like we have raises and such still in here for non-union employees throughout all of the departments, and that this doesn't seem to me to be very prudent at a time when we are facing such difficult economic circumstances potentially moving forward. So I would like to ask about this particular line item, but I would like to ask about it in the context of making sure everybody understands that this is happening across the budget. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Okay, we all said yes?
Correct.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
So through the moderator, it's a great question and a fair question. Let me give you a little bit of a broad picture answer on this. So last year, in an effort to move the town away from the automatic 2.5%, I asked my non-unions to take a 1.5% to take the lead. They did that. Non-unions took a 1.5 as a whole. Additionally, in this budget, non-unions will get 1.5. When we put the line item together for a little extra, I had hoped non-unions could get a little bit extra this year because they did take the 1.5 last year. But with the COVID situation, I'm only putting in for a 1.5 for them. Additionally, for myself, the board voted last week for a 1.5 for me as well. We have a couple of positions that are non-union that did get larger increases. Mr. Tisdale is one of them. I want to give the big picture here. Last year, as I indicated, I could have hired an assistant town manager. We would be paying that salary every year, and that person presumably would be getting about $120,000 or $130,000. Mark was willing to take on the responsibility of managing a division of departments while still maintaining his position as town engineer. Realistically, he's taken on a huge amount of work and maintaining his position as town engineer has saved us from having to hire another town engineer. Additionally, this year, he's taken on the building official department. We have changed the report structure of that department so that the code enforcement person does not report to the building official. The code enforcement person reports directly to Mark. We are able, in not calling it an assistant building official, to recruit at a significantly lower salary. And I want to point out the building official salary is a little higher this year. His position is higher this year because the prior building official was on 3/4 time. So there is an increase there that people will see. But regarding Mr. Tisdale, it's the addition of taking on a whole nother department in a large department. In the case of Ms. Bruce, you see a stipend because she has taken on additional oversight. And again, when we look at the overall picture of salaries over the past 2 years, we have either not hired or reduced over $235,000 in non-union salaries in trade-off for an increase of, I believe, about maybe 40,000 total. So in stipends and that's that's not compounded. If you compound the assistant town manager, that would be about 250,000 there alone, plus the 100,000 this year that we're not hiring. So from a large picture standpoint, we're about $500,000, maybe $400,000 ahead over 2 years on non-unions. Frankly, to give Mr. Tisdale a few thousand more.
Dr. Grimm, could you just summarize?
So to summarize, overall non-union costs have gone down.
Thank you very much.
I believe
Yes, are you all set?
I believe I have just a few seconds left to follow up. So I would like to just point out, isn't there an equity consideration where Janice Bruce is only getting a stipend adjustment and that's not actually added to her salary for this taking on the same kind of step up to oversee a whole division, whereas Mr. Tisdale is getting this added into his salary. And my other point is, I just want to make sure we understand that we're about to put through 510,000 in housing assistance for the taxpayers who can't afford to, or we're predicting can't afford to even pay their mortgage or their rent to stay in their houses. And yet we're still asking for raises at this time. I still philosophically, I recognize it's a philosophical disagreement, but I just want to go on record saying I philosophically disagree. Thank you.
I believe Janice's is in her salary. It should be in her salary. The only one that was a stipend was the IT one because it was an unusual situation and I did not want to permanently lock that into an IT stipend, to an IT salary, because it would not always be like that depending on who I had for staff. But Ms. Bruce's should be part of a salary. I may have referenced it as a stipend.
Thank you.
Okay, we should be all set now. Thank you, Jess. Let's move on. We have page 90, 91, Department 421, DPW and Highway. Mark Zamanian, can we unmute Mark Zamanian? And Mr. Zamanian, please state your name and precinct number again, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. It was a simple question, really, through you to whomever can answer it. I'm looking at the line item of various licenses that the Board of Selectmen the Select Board reduced by 66.67%. The explanation was that the licenses were reduced by the BOS as a cost-saving measure. Are these licenses we need, or were these sort of extra licenses that were being gotten by employees in the DPW? It's just a simple question, not an accusation.
Whoever can answer that.
Which line item are you talking about, Mark, Mr. Zamanian?
I'm talking about, it's actually 3 up from the bottom on the DPW general and highway expenses.
Should be Department 421 in there.
421, yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. It says various licenses. It's a marginal number, but I'm curious if those were licenses we needed and what happened to, how do they continue with those licenses?
Okay. Okay.
That's a good question. I'm looking at that and I'm looking at our actual was 0 in 2019 and it was 1,500 in 2020. So I think it probably was dropped because we spent no money in the prior years. I'm just getting a text from Mr. Fitzgerald as well, and that is the case. We had not used any of that money in prior years. So I think it's there as a safe gap, but it was just more than we needed to have in there.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much.
Mark Zamanian, we all set? I take it we are. Okay, let's move on. All right, we're turning to page 100, Department 541, Council of Aging. Carolyn Campbell, can we unmute Carolyn Campbell? And please state your name and precinct number again.
Hi, Carolyn Campbell, Precinct 5. The question I have about the Council on Aging was, on one second, is that I understand that the position, the COA director, the Youth Commission director has been eliminated, and it's been replaced with a COA manager for a salary of what, 71,000 and what, 71,000 and whatever. I can't read the number. So what exactly does that person do, and what exactly is that person's qualifications?
To the moderator.
I'm sorry, were you addressing me, Carolyn?
Oh, I was asking through you, Mr. Moderator, to whoever can answer.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you were breaking up a little bit to me. Okay, who can answer that, Dr. Graham or?
Yeah, I can answer that.
Sure.
it actually is not a COA manager. It is a program coordinator one, and we elevated her salary. And the person in that position, Ms. Cardoza, has been overseeing the day-to-day programming in that department and has been very successful at it throughout the years. And again, now that would report into Janice Bruce. So Ms. Cardoza reports directly to Ms. Bruce, who, as you know, also does our VNA and has an extremely close connection to our seniors. So Janice Bruce oversees, and it is program coordinator one who has been in that job and who has been overseeing the day-to-day operations of that department for several years now. And in fact, last year, the prior director of the department had actually proposed to elevate that person's salary last year, and we did. And again, to go back to Ms. Minor's question, in this case, it was not put in as a stipend. It had originally been to carry through the year, but it is part of her salary to reflect the increased work and responsibility that she has. These were all bargained with the labor union under impact bargaining.
Okay. All right. I see it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Carolyn. Are you gonna stay there, Carolyn? Hang on. All right, well, next department is page 101, Department 542, Youth Services, Carolyn Campbell. Go ahead. Oh, they removed her. Can we unmute Carolyn Campbell again? Bring her back in. Just a moment, please. And we're going to keep Carolyn.
Hello.
Yes, Carolyn, you're on.
Hi, Carolyn Campbell, Precinct 5. Mr. Moderator, I had questions about both the Youth Commission and the Recreation Department, and they're on similar topics. Would you like me to deal with them all at one point?
Rather, let's talk about Department 544.
Okay.
The Oasis, then we'll go to the Recreation Department.
And if I can combine all. In the interest of expediency, I can talk about all of those questions. At this, I would, would it be easier if I did them all at the same time?
Sure, but you're still going to be. All right, go ahead, please.
What was that?
Yes, I'm okay with that. Please go ahead.
Okay. So on the Youth Commission, how many, through you, Mr. Moderator, to the town manager? How many positions were in the Youth Commission? And other than the director's position, where have all those positions wound up?
So all of those positions ended up under recreation, with the exception of the Oasis person. I believe that had been under Youth Commission originally. I just have to look. I think we carved that out separately. Bill Rowe may be able to answer that. Right. But other than that, the counselors.
Yeah, that was under the Youth Commission, but it was under as a grant funded position. So it
right,
didn't
that's
up the salary.
That's been pulled out separately. All of the other positions were rolled under recreation. The two counselors, the Becky, there was some people who were split between COA and youth. Those are under recreation with Youth Commission. We did not reduce Youth Commission staff outside of the 50% portion of the director. And moving Oasis out, but that's not a reduction to the town.
Right. I'm sorry. There was you cut out for a minute, so I don't know quite what you said.
There are no, outside of the 50% director portion, there has been no elimination of positions in that department.
So the two therapists have been moved over to the Recreation Department. And
budgetarily, they are still operating out of the COA building, but for budgetary purposes, they are under the Recreation Department.
That's all I'm asking about is budgetarily, not where they physically are working. So they're in the those two are in the Recreation Department. The program coordinator, is that a counselor position or the program administrator? Because
hold on,
I'm looking at the budget.
Yep.
And
Yeah, you have a counselor, that 75,000 position as a counselor. And then what it is you had 2 program coordinator positions in there.
okay,
And then you had a program administrator. The one program coordinator would be your OASIS person, that's carved out. And then you had a program coordinator and a counselor. Effectively, one of those program coordinators serves as one of those counselors. We use the term loosely, 2 counselors, but
Yeah.
one is a program coordinator and one.
okay, because the reason I asked
Woman's
is it
council.
also says, all right, there's a prevention coordinator that's a grant-funded position.
Yep.
So where that wouldn't have shown up in the budget, would the other program coordinator that went to Oasis be the same person as the prevention coordinator?
I believe so. Bill can take a look at that for me. He probably has a better handle on the moving around of those. But what I can assure you is none of those positions have been removed. They are all funded either under Oasis or Recreation. But I could get specifically who is who. I just don't have the names of the people here and their specific positions. But we had the 2 program coordinators and a therapist. One got pulled out. Hold on one second. Yes, what it is and I just got from my internal auditor, the Oasis position used to be grant funded. That was the old SAMHSA grant, if I believe. That's no longer grant funded. And what's happened is Stephanie is actually salaried. That Oasis position is not a grant funded position. The only grant funded position is Jess, who was the assistant in Oasis. So that's both those positions are under Oasis. One is grant funded, but the full-timer is not grant funded. That's why you see that line item 0. The prevention coordinator grant funded is 0. Because
Right,
that
okay.
a few years ago was actually absorbed when the SAMHSA grant ended.
So the prevention coordinator is the part-time person.
No, the prevention coordinator,
Okay, one more minute, please.
yep, that's a part-timer. Yep, yes.
Okay.
Or I shouldn't say part-timer. It's a grant, that's a grant funded assistant.
Right, I'm just, all right. I guess my last question for this department would be, who's handling the AmeriCorps volunteers?
So those fall under the recreation. Those will be monitored through the recreation, but I also think that Stephanie Patton and Oasis will be working with them as well.
Okay,
Most likely, they're going to do more work for Stephanie than anybody. We're going to be one of the things that's going to happen is Oasis is going to be operating out of the same building as Youth Commission. And remember, we have recreation representatives on the Oasis board. So I believe AmeriCorps primarily will be Stephanie, but they'll have some interaction with recreation.
all right. I'm going to have to conclude that conversation. Thank you very much, both of you, Carolyn and Dr. Grimm.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, now we're going to hear from, in the Q&A, raise hand, Peter Brown. Can we unmute Peter Brown? Mr. Peter Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Can you hear me?
Name and precinct number, please.
Hello?
Name and precinct number.
I'm sorry?
Can you give name?
Oh, yes. It's Peter Brown, Precinct 2.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question through you, Mr. Moderator, to the town manager. My question is, how long was the director out on leave and how long were they being paid and what's the current status of that employee at this point?
I lost the beginning of that.
How long was the current director out on leave and being paid and what is the current status at this time?
I can't answer the question about any status on leave for that person when she was an employee of the town, as that's a personnel matter. What I can tell you is that that employee, the position was effectively eliminated May. It is budgeted through 30 June, and that's effectively the last of any payment for that position. But as far as details on the length of leave, that is a personnel matter, and I cannot discuss that.
Okay, so your answer is that position is still being paid through June 30th, though?
Position is funded through June 30th, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown.
Yeah.
go to, he has his hand raised. Can we unmute Mr. Richard Terry? Mr. Terry, unmute yourself now.
Yeah, this is Richard Terry, precinct 6. I'd like
Yes.
to move.
Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to move the question.
Well, I think we might be all done anyways with the, right, we're all done with the holds. All right, thank you. Hang on a second. Yep. I just want to mention, Mr. Struck had a hold on 695 community events, but he did remove the hold. All right, so we went through the whole department. We have any debate now? No, I don't hear any debate. Nobody's raising a hand. Question was moved. Okay. Do we have any debate? I'm gonna give another minute. If you do, raise your hand. All right, seeing no hands are up, Mr. Holmes. All right, Brian Holmes.
Brian Holmes, precinct 3.
Thank
Can you hear me?
I hear you, go ahead.
Just wanted to second Mr. Terry's motion.
All right, thank you. Okay, now we're done. We moved the question. Okay, hang on a minute. Let's deal with the technicalities here. Okay. Here's what we do to make this a little quicker tonight. All those town meeting reps, well, actually, has everybody been moved back into the town meeting rep area? Yeah, I got to give everybody a moment to get moved back in. Yeah. Moving the question means debate ends. We're going to have a vote on ending the debate. So, okay, if you want to stop talking on this, vote yes, raise your hand. If you do not want, if you want to continue debate, do not raise your hand. So I'll give you a couple minutes to do that. And so this is if you want to stop the debate, raise your hand. Yeah, we just need a couple of minutes here to look at it. We want to double check everybody. 10 more seconds or so to raise your hand. If you're ready to stop debate. All right. Okay, please put your hand down. It's 110 yeses. Please put your hand down. I got to record the no's. We're going to lower your hands. Wait a minute. I see some hands up still. A couple more. All right. One more went up. Everybody lower your hands. Please don't vote yet. Lower your hands, please. All right. Everybody just wait till the system call. Please don't put your hands back up, please. Hang on. Hang on, please. All right. Now, anybody who's voting the opposite, no, raise your hands now. Please raise your hands. If you want to keep talking about this, we'll give it a minute. All right, I think that's enough time. Okay, just keep your hands up for 1 second. Okay, everybody confirm that? 7, okay. All right. 110 yes, 7 no. Debate. Yeah, it's 2/3 vote. It's, debate has stopped. Okay, I'm just looking for Ed Trumfield. Mr. Trumfield, we have to bring him back into the panel. Just don't see him. Mr. Trumfield, do you want to summarize with the motion, if we can get up on the screen?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Okay. No, yes, summary was, I read the motion for the 106,000,000, 419,953. This is a very tight budget. I hope town meeting will support it. We worked really hard. It's been contentious at some points, but we have to move forward. We're a $100 million organization. We have to have a budget to operate. And in a future article that's coming up, the stabilization fund, we're going to be putting another $1 million away this year as a cushion to help us out against any, as more cushion for this year's budget, which town meeting can vote in October when we probably have to come back and revisit the budget.
You, Ed. This is a procedural motion. We only need a majority vote. Sorry, hang on one second. I'm sorry, we're going to set up a poll for the budget just to get it clear. Take a clear vote. Just give us a moment, please. This will be for Article 20, the amended motion. Okay, as we ready the poll, we will be voting on the entire budget article number 20 when the poll comes up. Just to be clear on everybody, we're just readying the poll. Just bear with us for a couple minutes, please. Apologies, we're having a technical difficulty here. We're getting it cleared up right now. We're just gonna, people asking, we're not changing the method of voting here. We're just gonna do a poll so we have a record of it. That's all we're doing, just waiting for it to get posted there. Okay, we're gonna launch the poll now. Please do not vote. Give it a minute to stay up there, get cleaned up a little bit. Just give it a minute. I'll let you know when to vote. I'll just read the article there on the poll. Move to approve budget as recommended by the Finance Committee on June 11th, 2020, and as read tonight. All right, we're ready to vote. Go ahead and cast your votes tonight. I'll give you about 40 seconds. Give it lots of time. All right, let's wrap it up. I'll give you 10 more seconds. All right, we should conclude the vote now. We'll post the results. All right, motion passes. 138 yeses.
Yes, it said Trumpio was a panelist, and I didn't get put back into the general population to vote. There's 2 or 3 other of us too, but.
Back, Ed Field can get back in.
Well, I want to record me as a yes vote.
Because yes votes will take the vote, so it's 139 yes, 14 no, 2 abstentions. The motion passes. The budget has been passed.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Marcus, want to say anything?
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Kids appreciate it. Teachers and families appreciate it. You guys are great. Thank you.
All right, thank you all. I'd like to move to take Article 50 up. I will take a motion to move that the town vote to take Article 50 out of order and dismiss.
So moved.
I'm sorry, we have a couple of hand raised. Have a second on that?
Second.
All right. I will take John. We unmute. I see a raised hand for John DiStefano. Excuse me, I mispronounced that. Can we unmute John DiStefano?
John DiStefano's precinct 2.
Yes,
I'm a little confused when you say a poll and a vote. What are we doing? Are we doing a poll? Are we doing a vote, or is it the same?
It's one and the same. The Zoom, it's a polling mechanism when you type in the actual, like for us, we typed in the article number, a little summary, and you vote yes, no, or abstain. So Zoom, we're calling it a vote because it's technically it's called a poll. It's a form that you put up on the screen.
Okay, I think we need to say vote, not poll, because people are used to voting, not taking a poll.
Okay, all right. Point taken, John. I'll try to say both. I mean, for some people, they understand it. For others, they see it differently. But I'll try to say both at the same time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Voting. And sometimes we might take a vote we'll explain it by raising your hand.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you for comments. Ed Trumfield, Mr. Trumfield. Can we unmute Mr. Ed Trumfield? Go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we do. Go ahead.
After you deal with 50, I would like to motion to take up Article 49 and 51, the 2 stabilization fund accounts. So we know where we stand on the budget overall.
He wants to take up 49 and 51?
Yes, after you deal with 50.
You want us to take up that? Yeah, after deal with 50. Okay, we'll take that under consideration.
Thank you.
All right, on the table here is a motion to move that the town vote to take Article 50 out of order and to dismiss it. We'll just do it, since this is a simple dismissal. Ed, can we lower Mr. Trumfield's head? Yes, head, excuse me. Misstatement. His hand. Okay, we have a slide going up on the screen. I'm not sure what that is. Okay, it's the Article 50. We're going to dismiss this article. So there's no debate here. Right, no reason to debate it. Okay, it was recommended by verbally by the Finance Committee. So we're going to do just a raised hand on this one. This is how we're going to vote on just this dismissal, Article 50. I had a motion, it was seconded. So on Article 50, which you see up there on the screen, the Article 50 was deposit to Building Stabilization Fund. There's no money in there, so we're just going to take it out of order and dismiss it. So we're going to vote now. All those in favor, please raise your hand. We'll give you a couple of minutes to get your hands raised and we'll get a count. Okay, after this, I'll go to Mr. Gito, but right now we're going to just take this vote. We're gonna just count the hands, just a minute. I see 135. 135, right? All right, we can put the hands down. All those who oppose, raise your hand now. E4. I should ask for extensions, right? Put your hands, can we put the hands down, please? Oh, see more, few more. Few more there. Can we ask all those who oppose? I saw a hand at the last minute. All those opposed, raise your hand again. Just keep them up there so we see. It was 5. All right, we're going to take that as a vote. There's 5 against. And now I'm looking for extensions. Keep your hands down. We'll get the hands down. Okay, now I'm looking for anybody that abstains. Please raise your hand if you abstain. I see 3, 4. Okay, 4 abstentions. All right, thank you. Clear the hands. The motion passes. 135 yes, 5 noes, 4 abstention. Okay, Mr. Trumfield wants to go to Article 51. Before we go to Article 49, I think I've seen a hand raised here. I'm told that hand is raised. Mr. Gito, you had your hand up? Can we unmute Mr. Gito? He's all set. Okay. I see Molly Cochran hand raised. Can we unmute Molly? Oh, yep. Unmute Molly Cochran, please. Molly Cochran, go ahead.
I've lowered my hand. Never mind.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry.
That's all right, no problem. Okay, the screen for Article 50 is still up. Can we take that down since we're done with that? Thank you. Okay, we're all set here. Let's just clear the hands there. We're good. All right, we'll go move on to Article 49. Mr. Trumfield?
All right, can you hear me?
Hear you.
Okay.
49.
Article 49, deposit to the stabilization fund. The proposed motion that the town vote to appropriate $1 million to fund the stabilization fund established in accordance with general laws, chapter 40, sections 5B, and to meet this appropriation to transfer the sum of $66,392 from free cash, transfer the sum of $150,000 from the FY20 police salaries, transfer the sum of $150,000 from the FY 2020 debt service expense, Transfer the sum of $85,000 from the FY 2020 Finance Committee Reserve Fund. Transfer the sum of $50,000 from the FY 2020 Crossing Guard salaries. Transfer the sum of $25,000 from the FY 2020 Civilian Dispatchers salaries. Transfer the sum of $25,000 from the FY 2020 Library salaries. Transfer the sum of $15,000 from the FY 2020 Regional Schools expense, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $433,608. And the Finance Committee voted 14-0 to recommend to town meeting as set forth in the motion.
The motion on the screen, the article on the screen is not the correct one. Can we take it down? Thank you. It's an amended motion that was mailed out to everybody, all the town meeting reps. It's dated June 17th, 2020. It's also on the town website. I notified everybody. They also emailed out these amended motions to everybody. We need a second on this.
Second.
Seconded by Jean Fleming. All right. We just don't have it on the screen. Is there any, we're gonna move forward on this? Just hold on a minute. I'm asked to hold on. Before we hit debate, just hold on for a minute. Thank you. All right. The floor is open for debate. I just want to remind everybody, town meeting reps, you have 3 minutes. Raise your hand, please. I should say, Mr. Trumfield, any more presentation on this? Are we good? All right, let's go to the questions here. I'm just writing down names, so give me a minute here. Colburn, you're first. Please unmute Patricia Colburn, and Pat, identify yourself with precinct number also. Thank you. Go ahead.
Colburn, precinct 4. I'm sorry, I must have missed this substitute motion somewhere, but is this just unused money from 2020 that would have been a turn back? To Mr. Trumfield, I suppose?
Whoever can answer that. Just be with us for a minute. Mr. Trumfield, can you unmute yourself?
Well, they gotta send me the thing. All right, can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Yeah, this is a two-parter. There's, we saved 500,000 from the snow from this year's budget for 21 that we didn't need, and that went in here. And then we scraped the 20 budget. A lot of these were one-time items, and we decided to use these to put into the stabilization. A lot of these were COVID related, like the crossing guards. While they closed the schools, they didn't need the money, things to that nature. Library was closed, took a little from them. FinCom reserve, whatever was left, we took that. So that's kind of how that came about.
Thank you. I applaud the creativity on this. Thank you.
Okay, you all set, Patricia?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's unmute Carolyn Campbell. Carolyn, when you get unmuted, please state your name and precinct number.
Hi, Carolyn Campbell, Precinct 5. I have a question perhaps or a comment. I think it's great to take all the money that wasn't used in, this year and put it into the stabilization account. However, I am concerned about the raising and appropriating 440, whatever,
$33,000, can't remember the exact figure, for, to raise and appropriate to move that into the stabilization account at this time, given the uncertainty around COVID-19 and state finances and everything else. I think just holding on to it and not putting it into the stabilization fund is a better use, because if we put it into the stabilization account, it counts as, it takes a 2/3 vote, I believe, in order to remove it. But if we just leave it wherever it is and then just allocate it at a fall town meeting, I think that's more realistic, especially if we're talking about, having to cut budgets or something at that point, just with the uncertainty. So I guess my question is to Mr. Trumfield is, did the Finance Committee discuss that at all?
Gotta keep shutting me off. Can you hear me?
We hear you.
Oh, no, we didn't think about leaving it open for the future. We rather tie it up in the stabilization so that town meeting can vote it out if they want to, when October comes around.
Was it discussed though?
I don't believe so. Not to leave it open as just hanging out there.
Right.
Because that's the school, that's the snow money, and we did it last year too. So we just decided to do the same.
I don't have a problem with all the money that was taken from the snow money and everything else. I have the part of the budget that's to raise and appropriate.
Right. This was what was left over when we squeezed it all down. We didn't need the snow budget. It falls out.
So is there no cost to this budget, to this article then?
What do you mean by cost?
Well, is this because the part of the article, it's hard, I don't have it. It's not on the screen, so I can't see it. But I know that part of it listed, all of these assorted places that you were taking it from.
Right.
Which is fine. But then it also said at the end to raise and appropriate $400 and something thousand to transfer.
Yeah, from the, what year we in? The 21 tax levy.
Yes.
That's kind of part of the 2.5 that falls out when you don't fund the snow. It becomes a positive number. So we put it into the stabilization fund.
So my concern is, if we're taking, so you're not taking the snow money from 2020, you're taking from the snow money for the money from next year?
Bill Rowe can explain it better. It was budgeted for 21. We always budget 500,000 over because the snow always goes over. That's our average for 5 years. So we put it in back in January as a negative number. Well, we had a good winter. We got lucky, and we didn't need the 500,000. So we're just taking it out and putting it in the stabilization fund.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's unmute John Lenahan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Lenahan, Precinct 1.
Yes, John.
First of all, you're doing a great job under difficult circumstances.
Appreciate the comments, John. Thank you.
But I think this is a no-brainer, and I wish I just moved the question.
Second.
All right. I understand, John, you moved the question. There was a question on the line saying where it was taken out of order. I decided to go with the Finance Committee's recommendation to, out of order of deference to the Finance Committee that made out of the evening to get this article done. if we could. If people want to take a motion, take a vote on taking it out of order, we can do that, but I think at this late hour of the evening, we can move forward. And so it's my decision to move forward on that, the moderator's decision. So, and I think I'd like to hear, there's two other people that want to talk. I think we should let them talk. John, the only one person. Yeah, I'd like to just hear a little more debate, then we can, we can get to move the question. Next up is Lori. May I unmute Lori?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I appreciate
3 minutes, David.
I won't even use 3. It's very simple. I just thought it would be important for the people who are going to vote on this to understand what the purpose was when we got behind our chairman on why we needed this. We were looking at this is to buttress the article we just voted on 20. This was designed as a war chest to support a budget that was created before COVID. And the fact is that we're not going to be able to rebalance any problems with a fully funded budget from, when times were great. We're actually running into headwinds where the state probably won't, may not. But bottom line is we were coming into this town meeting blind as to what we really have from the state. So this is to bolster 20 that we just voted on as a war chest that we're going to be asked to vote 2/3 in October. And so this is a stabilization. This is one-time money that's supposed to be used for one-time projects that is designed as a war chest to fix an operations budget. So operational budgets this is going to be used for an operational budget if we're running into a shortfall, which most towns in the South Shore believe is definitely going to happen. So I think people should just, understand, yes, it is very important, as the previous speaker said, that we should, as a no-brainer, help our stabilization. And it's always a good idea to do that. But just remember that when they call us back in, they're going to be coming after this money to fix the problems that we will probably run into in October. I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Mr. Laurie. I got to hear Scott Carrara. Can we unmute Scott Carrara? Mr. Carrara, you can unmute yourself.
Sorry about that, Mr. Chairman. I'm
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Moderator. On the simple side of things, we did have a lot of discussion on this. And to speak to a previous speaker, yes, we did have a lot of discussion. We did not want to tie it up in a building fund where we couldn't get at it. And to put it into the stabilization account, it's like Mr. Linehan said, it's a no-brainer. We can get at it with a 2/3 vote, and it can be used to bolster 2021 if we need it. It's an emergency plug, and it made more sense to put it in the stabilization account. If we don't touch it, it goes towards our good standing. Everybody's worried about bond rating. So I just want everybody to understand that there was some serious thought about where to put it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Carrara. I'm going to recognize Mr. Linehan again. If you want to move that question again, Mr. Linehan, and then we'll take a vote on it. Can we unmute Mr. John Linehan?
Yes, John Linehan, Precinct 1 again. Please move the question.
Second.
There's a second. Okay, we're going to do just raise hands. You got a poll? Okay. We have a poll ready for that. We're going to just double check. All right, let's do this again. No, it's just a meeting when we do a voice vote. Instead of speaking with our voices, we're just using the functionality of a raised hand. We just clear the hands again, please. Yeah, this is on stopping debate. Can we clear the hands? Just, let's not vote yet. Everybody's voting. Please clear the hands. Do not vote right now. Please don't vote yet, please. Please take your hands down. Okay, now to stop debate, move the question. All those in favor of stopping the debate, raise your hands. Okay, just keep them up there. We're gonna take a count. Another couple of seconds. All right, we have 136. All right, we're clearing the hands. All right, just don't vote yet, please. All those against, please vote now.
We're voting, no comment.
Okay. I see 2. Let's clear the hands. Anybody abstain? All right, I see the motion passes 136 to 2 to 0. All right, go back to the amended motion, 49. Okay. All right, the poll is up. Let's just wait a minute before we vote. Okay, voting begins now on Article 49. Another 20 seconds. Okay, voting is concluded. We can get the tally. The vote is on, it's 140 yes, 3 no, 3 abstentions. The motion passes. Thank you for voting. All right. We're gonna, there's a couple of hands raised. We have some questions. So I'm gonna go to that. The first one I see raised hand is Lauren Mahan. We unmute Lauren Mahan, please.
I move.
Hello, Lauren, can you state your name and precinct number, please?
Lauren Mahan, Precinct 6. I move to adjourn town meeting tonight and continue to time certain tomorrow night at 7 p.m.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Okay, we're gonna have to clear the hands, take another vote. We're gonna do a hand vote. This is to adjourn town. So 7 o'clock tomorrow night, June 30th. So let's clear the hands. We'll take a vote tonight. Just give us a minute to clear. Before everybody leaves, we're going to take a vote, but I just want to give a quick announcement. We're going to use the same link to log on to town meeting tomorrow night, June 30th, 7 o'clock. You can start logging in after 6. Okay, all motions need to be received by my email and CC Stephanie Carrara, interim town clerk, by noontime tomorrow, any motions. All right, we're ready to take a vote. All those in favor say aye. Raise your hand. I should say, excuse me. We'll give it a minute. We'll try to move it along a little faster tomorrow night.
Bob, I think you're muted.
Thank you all for joining us tonight. We had some technical difficulties, but we worked through it. I appreciate your effort and time and dedication to the town meeting process. We will do better tomorrow night. This is just going through this process the first time, getting all the mechanics working fine. If you have recommendations, certainly send them to the moderator, town moderator, bmullen@stoughton-ma.gov. We'll see you again tomorrow night at 6:15 p.m. This is our first town meeting done virtually. Obviously, it wasn't too bad. I thought it was pretty good. I like technology. I hope you enjoyed it too. So we're going to sign off now, and thank you very much for participating in your local government. Have a great night. Thank you, all the panelists. We'll see you again tomorrow night.
Thank you, Bob, for great effort. Tremendous work, Bob.
Dr. Robin.
Thank you so much.
You all.